Chapter 438. An inch of time was worth an inch of gold. An inch of gold could not buy an inch of time. To cultivators, regardless of race, time was both cheap and precious. It could be seen but could not be grasped. Perhaps a single period of seclusion could be 100 years, or even 1,000 years. However, if one did not become a greater demon, demon saint, or even a celestial demon, there would always be a limit to one's lifespan. The demon clan was born. Even a demon beast, as long as it did not encounter misfortune, could have a lifespan of thousands of years, not to mention the more powerful demon clan. But even so, one's lifespan was not as long as the heavens and earth, or as glorious as the sun and moon. There was always a limit, unless one cultivated to the indestructible body, or made one's body indestructible. Then one's vitality would always be exuberant. One could maintain one's lifespan without exhaustion, or an indestructible primordial spirit. With an indestructible primordial spirit, one could rebuild one's body. But to reach that level, not everyone could do it. Aptitude, cultivation method, and lifespan were all obstacles that restricted all things in the world from entering the indestructible realm. Once one cultivated an indestructible body or an indestructible primordial spirit, one would be an eternal giant. Time could not erase one's divine glory. Blades and swords could not destroy one's body. In the world, since ancient times, those who could truly reach that level could be counted on one's fingers. Therefore, for cultivators in the world, time was not something that could be described as an inch of gold. Abundant time was something that everyone wanted. Moreover, this kind of time would not be used on one's body and deplete one's lifespan. 1 year outside was 100 years inside, but in the pagoda, one's lifespan would not be depleted. It would only be shaving off 1 year's lifespan. This was equivalent to using 1 year's lifespan as 100 years. This was the real magic of the Linglong Treasure Pagoda that could be called the word fortune. Otherwise, how could it be called a supreme treasure? Heavenly Demon Zu, Heavenly Demon. What kind of incredible realm is a heavenly demon to have such heaven-defying magic? Zu, I will definitely accept your kindness. Tion did not need to deliberately absorb it. He could feel the rich spiritual qi in the air just by breathing casually. It naturally entered his body like breathing or drinking water. His expression quickly changed as he muttered to himself. Over the years, he had already guessed that this exquisite fortune pagoda was most likely a natal treasure refined by heavenly monster Ziyue herself. If she really had a backup plan and could be reborn again, then this exquisite fortune pagoda would definitely not be controlled by him. At this moment, at most, it would be borrowed. However, even so, the help it provided to him was immeasurable. Gathering his thoughts, he passed through the pagoda door and entered the third layer of heaven. He looked around. It's actually a large, ancient forest. Tion was slightly surprised. In front of him, there were towering, ancient trees everywhere. He had never seen most of the ancient trees before. They were as thick as the trees in the inner world of Tong Tian Tower. The amount of time it had lived was unimaginably long. Moreover, there was a dense Iwid qi drifting in the forest. If a cultivator who cultivated a wood attribute cultivation method were to cultivate here, it would definitely be twice the result with half the effort. The inside of the pagoda was still very vast, with no end in sight. Regretfully, this place was the same as the other two heavens and earth, with no other life forms. It seemed unusually lonely. What's that? Just as he was sizing up his surroundings, he suddenly saw a strange light flash in the east from the corner of his eye. It emitted a powerful source energy. A familiar aura appeared in his heart. He quickly turned his head to look. What's glowing on the mountain peak? Could it be a treasure left behind in this first layer of heaven from the heavenly monster's secret realm? In the east, there was a mountain peak that was a few hundred feet tall. On the mountain peak, there was not a single blade of grass, but there was an ancient octagonal altar. The strange light just now was emitted from the altar. Even if one was standing 10,000 feet away, one could still clearly see the strange purple light on the altar. This purple light was not big, only the size of a fist. However, the light it emitted seemed to be able to cross the boundary of heaven and earth and reach the eyes of every living being in the third layer of heaven. It was gentle and not dazzling, but it carried a simple and mysterious power, as if it was boundless. Lunatic D, what are you waiting for? This is obviously the origin energy of a small world. There's a small world on the altar. TSK, if I'm not wrong, that small world should be the heavenly monster secret realm you mentioned before. Aren't there millions of demons in it? Hurry up and subdue them. Your forces will be greatly strengthened. Dark, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly shouted excitedly in his mind. Could that be the heavenly monster secret realm that was sucked into the Linglong treasure pagoda? Dishirtian's eyes suddenly lit up. According to legend, the heavenly monster secret realm was a small world created by a world source seed. If that was true, then the purple light on the altar could be the secret realm that he had always wanted. Thinking of this, he could not help but shout, "Good, good, good. Destiny is on my side. Not only did I break through to the third transformation of Yaodan, but it also allowed me to find the heavenly monster secret realm at this time. With my current strength, this is the best time to subdue the demons in the secret realm." He took a deep breath. Although there were millions of demons in the heavenly monster secret realm, he had long known that the demons in the secret realm were restricted by the purple moon. No, it could be said that the demons in the secret realm could only reach the peak of the Yaodan realm in their lifetime. Then, they would never be able to advance. They could only regretfully exhaust their lifespan and die in the secret realm. This meant that the most powerful demons in the secret realm were only at the peak of the Yaodan realm. They had not transformed into demons, nor had they entered the 9th transformation of Yaodan. The gap between them and Dishirtian was like a chasm. The gap between the peak of the Yaodan realm and the 3rd transformation of Yaodan realm was 4 whole realms. Every realm was like a chasm, let alone 4. If he wore the Supreme Emperor mask and advanced another realm, he would be at the 4th transformation of Yaodan realm, the ancient Demon King realm. The only thing missing was the formation of a domain. At this moment, even if it was difficult to subdue the demons in the secret realm, with his absolute strength, he would definitely be able to subdue them. If this was not the best time, when would it be? He forcefully suppressed the joy in his heart. His body moved, and he quickly rushed to the mountain peak in the east. Altar, an octagonal altar with 3 levels, ascending in order. It was about the height of a person, but in the center of the altar, there was a purple ball of light the size of a person's head. The ball of light exuded a kind of power of the origin. It is indeed the heavenly monster secret realm, Dishirtian said with certainty when he saw the purple ball of light. He had entered the secret realm before and had even walked through the entire Wenxin Road. He was very familiar with the aura of the secret realm. It was not easy to be sure from afar, but once he got close, the familiar feeling appeared clearly in his mind. You must subdue them. 1,000,000 demons. This amount would not even be a blister in the ancient times, but in today's mainland is the most precious wealth. 1,000,000 demons who have reached the peak of the demonic beast realm. TSK. If you bring them out after subduing them with the power of the Linglong treasure pagoda, it will not take long for you to have an army of 1,000,000 demons. And they will all be true demons who have formed their inner cores. Ming shouted excitedly. At that time, your power will be unique among the demons in the purple gold mainland. The myriad demon valley will become the holy land of the demons, and the myriad demon city will become the holy city of the demons. Thinking of the situation after subduing the demons in the secret realm, even Ming was full of yearning. The process of climbing to the peak step by step was the most shocking. It could stimulate endless fighting spirit and endless hot-bloodedness. I've been waiting for this day for a long time. Dishirtian said loudly and powerfully. Following that, he walked up the sacrificial altar and came to the front of the purple ball of light. His body collided with the purple ball of light. Not only did this collision not cause a violent collision, instead, A layer of dense divine light burst out from the purple ball and covered Sakura. Following that, it shrunk back and brought him into the purple ball. It is indeed the heavenly demon secret realm. As soon as Zhang Xian entered the dungeon, a bright light flashed before his eyes. When he reappeared, he was already in an empty space. However, he didn't panic. Instead, he gathered a clump of demonic chi beneath him to support his body. Then, he calmly surveyed his surroundings. Below him was a vast expanse of mountains that stretched as far as the eye could see. Ancient trees that towered into the sky stood tall, and there were numerous mountain ranges that were connected together like horned dragons. The surroundings were covered in shade, and they emitted exuberant vitality. There were all kinds of flowers, plants, and trees. From the looks of it, it was a completely independent small world. Although there was no sun in the void, there was a purple moon hanging in the sky. From the purple moon, there were traces of moonlight sprinkling down, nourishing the world below. Looking down, the moonlight turned into countless purple light spots and gathered in various places, as if it was being led there. Obviously, there was a living creature absorbing the moonlight to increase its cultivation. Ow! Suddenly, a high-pitched eagle cry pierced the sky and resounded through the forest. Looking towards the direction of that sharp cry, in the sky, there was a golden-winged great rock condor that had spread out its wings, which was 3 to 4 feet wide. It was currently staring sharply at Sakura with its pair of pale golden eyes. Every feather on its body was emitting a faint golden light, and every feather was as sharp as a blade. It looked extraordinarily beautiful. Ow! The long cry pierced the sky and broke the silence of the secret realm. Suddenly, on a steep cliff, there were gusts of wind. Huge golden-winged rock eagles flew out of the cave wall. When they gathered together, they looked like a golden cloud. It was vast and unparalleled. There were 30 to 40,000 of them. Every one of them was overflowing with a strong, demonic aura. At the top, a gigantic golden-winged rock eagle with a body of 30 to 40 feet flew out. With just a light flap of its wings, waves of sharp wind blades were stirred up beneath its body, tearing apart the void beneath it. Today, my head is a little dizzy, and I want to lie down on the bed and sleep. I hope brothers can be more considerate of the author's hard work. Maybe when you read it, you can finish reading 3,000 words in a few minutes, but it took me at least 2 hours to write it. If you have the ability, I hope you can support the original and subscribe to a few more chapters. As for the other brothers, I hope you can help to vote for a few recommendation votes while reading the book. After all, recommendations are free. Anyway, I have to continue writing the second chapter. I have never slept before midnight every day. Chapter 439. The 9 clans of the mystic realm, even among the tens of thousands of golden-winged giant rocks. It could not hide its elegance. Its majestic aura made all the giant rocks respectfully fall behind it, not daring to overtake it. Among the group of giant rocks, there was a kingly aura. Obviously, this was the golden-winged giant rocks. Just by flapping its wings, it could stir up a gust of wind and let out a shrill cry. Its strength was far beyond that of the other giant rocks, especially its eyes, which were like sharp blades. When it landed on one's body, it was as if a knife was cutting one's flesh, causing waves of piercing pain. It was terrifyingly sharp. Being stared at was like a blind needle in one's back. There was a faint sense of immense pressure. Whoosh! Not only the giant rocks in the sky, but the giant rocks pierced through the sky and spread out in all directions as if this was a warning sign. On the spot, there was a rustling sound in the forest, and a large number of creatures quickly walked out. They were groups of people wearing animal skins. No, from the demonic aura that overflowed from their bodies, one could tell that they were not humans at all, but the most orthodox demon clan. One group after another. In the blink of an eye, tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of demon clan members walked out of the forest. These demon clan members did not all gather together. Instead, they were divided into several distinct camps. Like the golden-winged giant rocks, they gathered according to their race. Every time they gathered in a large circle, almost every group belonged to a different race. Even the aura that they emitted was different. Not long after, more than 1 million demon clan members had gathered in the open space in front of the forest. Looking at their division, they were vaguely divided into 8 largest groups. Outside of these 8 groups, there were some other smaller groups gathered in the surroundings. It was clear that these 8 largest groups were the leaders. No, it should be said that there were 9 groups. There was also the group of great golden-winged pung eagles circling in the sky. Jin Xian, why did you suddenly warn us? In one of the 8 groups below, there was a white-haired old man whose eyes flashed with wisps of wisdom. He held an emerald walking stick in his hand. Behind him, there were 70,000 to 80,000 demon clan members. The strange thing was that most of those demon clan members were beautiful women. Even the men were handsome young men. They all had a unique charm that made people want to take a second look at them. He could not bear to look away. From their auras, it was clear that they were indeed from the same clan. The leading old man asked the golden-winged great eagle king who was circling in the sky. "Ooh, look up there. An unfamiliar expert has suddenly appeared. I could sense a strong threat from him." The golden-winged condor king's name was Jin Xian. His eyes were still fixed on Di Shirtian, who was standing on the demon cloud. There was a strong sense of wildness and battle intent in his eyes. With Jin Xian's reminder, the demons below immediately followed Jin Xian's gaze and looked up into the void. A pitch-black demonic cloud hovered in the air. It carried a burly young man in black robes with a strange blade on his back. There was a vertical purple mark between his eyebrows. The young man stood there casually, but he radiated with the soul-stirring presence of a king. A nameless pressure was naturally emitted from his body. It was so powerful that no one dared to look at him directly for fear of being disrespectful. The invisible pressure made it difficult to breathe. An expert from the outside? Demonic aura? He is an expert from the demon clan. Old Fox pondered for a moment, and his eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of excitement. He looked at Sakura, and the teachings left behind by his ancestors flashed through his mind like lightning. His ancestors had entered the mystic realm to avoid disaster and preserve a part of the bloodline and vitality for the demon clan. When the time came, there would be demon clan experts from the outside to lead them back to the source world, the purple gold mainland. Follow him, follow him. He will make the demon race rise again from the ashes. Once again, he will establish supreme prestige. Could it be that in our generation, that day has really come? Who was extremely excited. He looked up at Di Shirtun, who was standing in the void, and said respectfully, "I am the great elder of the Fox clan, Hu Yin. May I ask if you are the demon king chosen by the sky demon?" Uproar. Although Hu's old voice was not loud, it immediately reached the ears of all the demon clan members. This sentence was like a thunderbolt that struck the hearts of all the demon clan members. That ancient legend was something that all demonic beasts had to remember from the moment they were born. The arcane pocket realm was not bad, and the violet lightning rain would descend, giving birth to new demonic beasts. However, the most terrifying thing was that in this place, the pinnacle of cultivation was the pinnacle of demonic beasts. Since entering here, no demon clan member had been able to break through this barrier. Hope. The only slim hope was that every time the sky demon mystic realm opened, there would be an expert from the demon clan who could pass the test of the sky demon and rescue them. According to the ancient teachings, the one who could enter here and bring them out would be their king. All the demon clan members in the mystic realm must also respect him as their king, listen to his orders, and assist him by his side. Could it be him? Swoosh. Millions of pairs of eyes fell on Di Shirtian at the same time. "Oh, you said that he is the king that the sky demon lord has chosen for us." A middle-aged man with a dignified aura and a strange coldness in his eyes looked at Hu and then at Di Shirtian, who was standing in midair and silently observing the demon clans below without saying a word. He was somewhat suspicious. He was the clan leader of the lion-scorpion tribe, Shirshi. It can't be wrong. Those who can enter the sky demon mystic realm will definitely not be able to enter unless they passed the Sky Demon Lord's test. Who said with unusual certainty, who was the wise man in the mystic realm. He had always been the one to make decisions on matters. In the entire demon clan, he had great prestige. As soon as he said this, many demon clans looked at Di-Shir-Tion with a hint of passion in their eyes. I am Di-Shir-Tion. I have also passed the Windshield Road set by Lord Purple Moon. After seeing that the demon clans below were mentally prepared for his arrival, Di-Shir-Tion knew that it was time for him to show his skills. Standing in the void, he opened his mouth and said a sentence. First, he had to clear his name. In the mystic realm, the demon clans would not know the name of the Sky Demon Lord Purple Moon. In their hearts, they would definitely respect her. At this moment, he was announcing his identity and showing that he had a good reason to do so. As expected, the demon clans below all looked up at him solemnly. Their eyes were burning with passion, waiting for Di-Shir-Tion to say something. The Sky Demon Mystic Realm was created by Lord Purple Moon to preserve the demon clan's bloodline. It was to ensure that the demon clan's heritage would not be cut off. The bloodlines of all the major clans could be preserved forever. Back then, the human clan rebelled and betrayed our clan. They turned around and attacked us, killing almost all of the elites of our demon clan. The remaining demon clans could only beg for survival on the Purple Gold Continent. As for us demon clans, as long as we run into them, we'll take their cores, cut off their bones, and use their flesh to refine pills. Our clan was constantly suppressed, so much so that we declined generation after generation. Di-Shir-Tion did not talk about anything else, let alone becoming their king. He only talked about some of the historical legends related to the demon clan that he knew in a vicissitude tone. First, it resonated. As expected, the mystic realm was sealed off from the outside world. How could they know anything else? Now that they heard Di-Shir-Tion talk about it one by one, when they heard that the demon clan situation in the outside world was actually so difficult, not only did they empathize with him, they were even filled with righteous indignation, and their fists were clenched so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. Their eyes were almost spitting fire. Immortal cultivators, the human clan, they want to destroy the entire demon clan. Di-Shir-Tion spat out the last sentence in a deep voice. This sentence also completely ignited the anger of the demon clans. Damn the human clan, a bunch of ungrateful things. Back then, if it weren't for the protection of the demon clan, how could they have survived under the ancient savage beasts? Not only do they not know how to be grateful, they repay kindness with ingratitude and want to destroy the demon clan. Bah! Even if I have to risk my life, I will kill you bastards. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Kill our way out. What are we still doing here? Even our clan is about to be destroyed. King, since you can pass Lord Zu's test, then you're the destined king. With your leadership, the demon clan will definitely rise again. For a moment, the demon clans were enraged. Since they were young, they had heard about how powerful and glorious the demon clan was in ancient times, how they dominated the world and crossed the starry sky. Although they suffered a great disaster in the end and had no choice but to hide here, they did not expect that the demon clan situation on the Purple Gold mainland would be so difficult. They were almost exterminated with the wildness that they were emitting. How could they not be filled with righteous indignation? They were incomparably furious. However, the kings of some clans did not shout. As the kings of their clans, how could they be ordinary demon clans? They naturally had more restraint than the other demon clans. None of them spoke. They were the kings of their clans. Whoever wanted to control them would first have to show them something that could convince them to submit. Just by moving a few lips, they would not be able to make them submit. They also had their own pride and would not easily submit to a mediocre person. In the demon clan, the strong were respected. Di-Shir-Tion saw everything below and was not surprised that the kings of the various clans did not say anything. He had never thought of subduing these million demon clans with just words. This was just to win over the hearts of the demon clans first. He wanted to get closer to them. That way, it would not be difficult to subdue them. He only needed to convince the kings of the various clans and suppress everything with incomparable strength. ascend the throne of the Demon King. This king needs everyone's strength. Our demon clan cannot continue to be decadent. Rise, we must rise. Let the heavens and myriad worlds see where the courage of our demon clan is. The blood of our ancestors flows in our bodies. Since our ancestors were unhindered in the ancient era, then I, Sakura, have the same confidence to lead everyone to create glory again. Reconstruct the demon race's eternal prestige. Everyone, are you willing to follow this king and fight for the world? Dishirtian's eyes emitted 2 rays of light. His body was filled with the majestic aura of an emperor. Every sentence he uttered made his blood boil. In the end, he even roared out loud, "I'm willing. I'm willing." The group of demonic beasts roared loudly. The blood in their bodies was stirred up by these words. They thought about how glorious their ancestors were and then looked at the present. While they felt ashamed, they also felt an endless fighting spirit. Very well. If you want us to follow you wholeheartedly, you won't just need to make empty promises. The demon race respects the strong. If you are strong, why can't we follow you? I finally finished writing. I'm going to sleep now. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com to read more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 440. Dishirtian had passed the path of reflection and experienced the test of the heavenly demon Ziyu. He was the king chosen by Ziyu. This king was chosen by the many demons in the heavenly demon mystic realm. This was something that the demons in the mystic realm had been taught since birth. It was the teachings of their ancestors, the teachings of their revered Lord Heavenly Demon. Without Ziyu, there would not be today's million demons. Moreover, Ziyu's words have been passed down from generation to generation. By now, they would not forget it even if they died. Those who passed the test of the path of reflection would be the king of the million demons in the mystic realm. At this moment, these words were still deeply imprinted in their minds. Therefore, it was not difficult for them to respect Dishirtian as king. This was the path that Ziyu had paved long ago, waiting for him to accept it. However, the demon race had always been unruly and unruly. What they worshipped was that the winner was the king and the loser was the bandit, and that the strong were respected. If he only used his identity to suppress the millions of demon race here by passing the path of reflection and gaining the recognition of the purple moon, perhaps nothing would happen in a short period of time. However, as time passed, they would inevitably become disloyal and disloyal. Perhaps they would all leave his command at some point, be it in name or strength. I will become the absolute king of these million demons. Dishirtian carefully looked at the physiques of the demons and found that the demons here all had amazing aptitudes. With his insight, he could see at a glance that although none of them had passed the heavenly tribulation and condensed an inner core, the demon dwellings they opened were all of the mysterious grade. Almost none of them were below the mysterious grade. There were also many outstanding ones who had successfully opened up earth-grade demon dwellings. Demon dwellings were divided into heaven, earth, mysterious, and yellow. Among them, generally speaking, ordinary demon clan members would be able to open up yellow-grade demon palaces, which had the lowest potential. As for those with outstanding talent and good methods of opening them, most of them would be able to successfully open up mysterious grade demon palaces. Next would be the elites of the demon clan, and even the current generation's heavens chosen, who could open up earth-grade demon palaces. Below the sky grade, each grade of demon dwelling had a great impact on one's achievements. This was because the higher the grade, the more demon chi that could be stored in the demon dwelling. For example, the difference between a yellow-grade demon dwelling and a mysterious grade demon dwelling was at least 10 times. In the same realm, if a yellow-grade demon dwelling and a mysterious grade demon dwelling cast the same spell, the yellow-grade demon dwelling could only support the casting of the spell once. However, the mysterious grade demon dwelling's demon chi could support the casting of the spell 10 times, or even more. It was obvious how big the gap was. And here, not a single one was of the Huang rank. Almost all of them were of the Xian rank. Some of the kings of the clans were of the Earth rank. Their potential for development in the future was much greater than that of ordinary demon clans. This was an amazing power. Almost in an instant, he had secretly made up his mind. This power must be grasped in his own hands. Even if it took a lot of effort, he must achieve it. Rumble! Dishur Tian waved his long sleeves towards an empty space, and a black light swept past. Instantly, the earth trembled and the mountains shook. The earth seemed to be under the control of an invisible hand as it trembled violently. A piece of the ground, in the midst of this rumbling sound, quickly rose up at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it rose to thousands of feet. It was like a huge arena. It was thousands of feet wide. Above, it was flat. Dishur Tian landed and stood in the middle of the arena. His black hair that was casually draped behind him moved without wind, dancing wantonly. It was just a simple stand, but it was like a sea-stabilizing needle. His majestic aura was naturally revealed. Today, I came here to become the king of this place. If anyone is not convinced, come up. On the arena, we will compete. The winner will be the king, and the loser will be the bandit. If anyone can defeat me, I will hand over my position as the king to him. From today onwards, I will no longer mention anything about being the king of this place. I can also bring you out of this place to the purple gold continent. Whether you stay or leave, it is up to you. If I win, Dishur Tian's tiger-like eyes shone with a divine light. His voice was powerful, and with the decisiveness of an emperor, he said, I will be the king of all demons. Good. As soon as Indra finished his words, a cold and stern voice burst out from Adair. At the same time, a gust of wind that was as sharp as a blade swept towards him. I am Jin Xian, the patriarch of the golden-winged eagle clan. Let this king see what qualifications you have to be the king of the 9 clans of the secret territory. Before he finished speaking, Jin Xian's original body swooped down ferociously from the void. His 2 sharp claws, which were glowing with a faint golden light, were in the shape of hooks, grabbing towards Dishur Tian's head fiercely. His 2 tough wings, which were like iron fans, slapped towards his body at the same time. The strong wind was like a blade. It landed on the arena, and terrifying cracks appeared on the arena. The strong pressure was suffocating. The pair of sharp claws were so sharp that it tore the void under them. The moment he attacked, it was a killing move. His ferocious attack carried an indomitable aura. It was extremely fierce. If it was someone with weak courage, they would have been scared. They might not even be able to use 50% of their strength. If you want to know, then I will tell you. A tyrannical aura burst forth from the Sakura. His entire body stood at the same spot, resembling a pillar that supported the heavens, existing for eternity. His eyes didn't even have the slightest intention to evade. There was only boundless majesty being emitted from his body as he spoke word by word, carrying with it a supreme might. He stood proudly. Fight! His right hand clenched into a fist. He did not even use the royal true force. He only relied on the strength of his demon body. His heart was beating violently at a speed of thousands of beats per second. His whole body, every inch of flesh and blood, seemed to come alive in an instant. A strong and domineering force was spewing out, and his muscles were like dragons shuttling quickly. A vast amount of power surged into his fist. Boom! Divine light flowed on the surface of his body, making him look like a god. He punched out forcefully. A vast amount of power condensed in his fist. The punch was fragmented and shattered into countless pieces. This was the Dishur Tian's 3rd transformation demonic body. Under the tempering of the Emperor's true force and the power of desire, this demonic body was already strong to the point of being able to shatter space with a single punch. Even a tribulation stage expert would not dare to take a punch head-on. Bang! This punch hit the 2 sharp claws under Jin Xian's body. With a bang, the surrounding space collapsed and was annihilated inch by inch. The golden-winged giant eagle was also a mutant passed down from ancient times. It had the blood of the giant eagle divine bird in its body. Legend had it that every time the giant eagle divine bird was hungry, it would fly to the sea and catch dragons. It would eat 2 dragons at a time. Jin Xian's clan inherited the blood of the giant eagle divine bird. His physical strength was much stronger than that of ordinary demons. But under this punch of the Sakura, his body trembled. Even his wings could not flap down as he was sent flying backwards. At the same time, the terrifying power caused the space around him to be annihilated with every inch he retreated. Ow! Jin Xian's eyes flashed with shock, but more than that, there was a kind of anger. He screamed and flapped his wings to stop his body from flying backward. Then, a fierce aura exuded from his body. Rumble! On Jin Xian's 2 golden wings, a dazzling golden light suddenly appeared. In the golden light, countless sharp blade-like feathers flew out from the wings. Under the continuous flapping of the golden wings, a violent hurricane swept up the countless golden feathers like thousands of swords dancing in the air. It formed a golden wave. Roaring, it rushed fiercely toward Dishurtion. It's Jin Xian's innate divine ability, the 1,000-feather meteoric wind, who was watching the battle below, saw the hurricane formed by countless feathers and could not help but cry out in surprise. The 1,000-feather meteorite wind was not an ordinary divine power. It was said that the giant eagle divine bird inherited the power of the giant eagle divine bird's bloodline. It was a superior divine power. Once it was used, countless feathers would grow from its body. These feathers were as sharp as swords. When they were used together, it was like thousands of swords flying together. Then there was a hurricane. This wind was very terrifying. When it blew on the mountain rocks, even the mountain rocks would be blown into a layer of dust. If it was a living creature, it would be blown thousands of miles away in an instant. With countless feathers piercing through its body, it would be turned into dust by this terrifying divine power. Moreover, this divine power would grow stronger with the user. When it was strong enough, it could stir up a hurricane with a flap of its wings. It could blow people thousands of miles away, just like the legendary banana fan. Use divine power? What's there to be afraid of? Sakura stood proudly, his feet not moving at all, looking at the frightening meteoric wind that was blowing towards him. And even the countless sharp feathers that were swept up by the wind, there was a trace of coldness in his expression. Ayo! He was not afraid. He waited until the hurricane was in front of him. When it was just a hair's breadth away from touching his body, he opened his mouth and let out a tiger's roar. The overbearing tiger's roar was like millions of tons of explosives exploding in an instant. With a bang, the arena under his feet trembled violently. Rings of pitch-black sound waves swept out in all directions like a tide. Wherever they passed, they collided with the 10,000-feather meteor wind. Rings of continuous sound waves caused even space to distort. Under the countless vibrations of the sound waves, the feathers that were born were all shattered and annihilated. Jin Xian's innate divine power was blocked by the sound waves of the tiger's roar. He could not take half a step forward. Come down from me. Dishurtion's left foot stepped on the arena, and his body shot up into the air like a cannonball. Like a flash of light, he fiercely appeared above Jin Xian. Bang! His right foot stepped heavily on Jin Xian's back, and a huge force poured down on Jin Xian's body. With his step, even the space under his feet shook violently and roared. The vast force was like Mount Tai. Roar! Jin Xian flew into a rage. The feathers all over his body stood erect, and a huge force gushed out from his body toward Sakura. However, Sakura was still cold. He stepped on Jin Xian's back, and it was as if he had taken root there. The force that burst out from Jin Xian's body didn't even have time to come out before it was directly suppressed back. If you're not convinced, then I will beat you until you are. Dishurtion is advancing towards his goal of being the ancestor of all demons. Rome was not built in a day. Watch the protagonist take the first step, the king of all demons. Brothers, give him some motivation. Chapter 441. Get down. Jin Xian roared violently. Waves of demonic energy rushed toward Dishurtion. At the same time, he shook violently in the air, trying to throw Di Shirtion off his back. Who was he? He was the leader of a clan, the king of the clan. Normally, he would be treated with respect wherever he went. No one would dare to show him the slightest bit of disrespect. But now, he was actually being trampled under the foot of someone else. To him, such an action was undoubtedly a form of humiliation. It was simply provoking the gods. His anger could be imagined. Get down. Di Shirtion's lips curled into a cold smile. He stepped on Jin Xian's back. Suddenly, it was as if the sky was falling down. A vast and terrifying force was exerted on Jin Xian's body. It was as if thousands of terrifying mountains were pressing down on him at the same time. The terrible gravity made the surrounding air seem a little suffocating. Ow! Jin Xian issued a mournful cry. His two wings emitted a terrifying sound of bones breaking. His body seemed to have been struck by lightning. He could no longer support his body to fly in the air. Like a bird with broken wings, he fell to the ground inch by inch with a mournful cry. With every inch he fell, Jin Xian's eyes showed a look of pain. Bang! After Sakura once again heavily stepped on his body, Jin Xian finally couldn't support himself anymore. Like a weight, he heavily fell down and landed on the arena, creating a deep pit on the spot. Dust flew everywhere and filled the air. Sakura didn't feel the slightest bit complacent about this. With his current cultivation, the third transformation of the monster core, he was about to become an ancient demon king. Against a peak demonic beast whose combat strength was comparable to a demon who had undergone tribulation, it was a common thing to win. If he lost, then he should just find a piece of tofu and kill himself. Do you accept it or not? Sakura asked coldly as he looked indifferently at Jin Xian, who was constantly struggling under his feet but was still unable to break free. His words were mixed with the power that had forced Jin Xian to the ground from the sky. His words carried a terrifying aura. In Jin Xian's ears, it was like the might of the heavens. The arrogance in Jin Xian's eyes gradually calmed down. He recalled the previous battle where Yi Shiwen shattered the void with a single punch. Yi Shiwen destroyed his innate ability with a single roar. Then, Yi Shiwen stomped on the ground without any resistance. Yi Shiwen's terrifying combat strength had crushed his pride again and again. Powerful, incomparably powerful. No matter how he used it, Di Shirtion's response was abnormally simple. Obviously, he could easily break through his most powerful attack head-on. He didn't even have the ability to force him to use his full strength. Thinking of this, Jin Xian felt a trace of bitterness in his heart. I lost. He bitterly spat out these words. In this short exchange of blows, he had already clearly understood the gap between them. If they continued to fight, he would only make a fool of himself. The winner takes all, while the loser takes all. A win was a win, and a loss was a loss. Jin Xian accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. Although he felt bitter in his heart, it wasn't difficult for him to say those words. Di Shirtion left Jin Xian's back and stepped onto the arena again. Just like before, he stood proudly, and the natural aura of a king that exuded from his body became even stronger. Jin Xian's body flashed, and he turned into a middle-aged man wearing a gold-trimmed robe. He looked very handsome. He had a strong charm that attracted the attention of women. The expression on his face was somewhat dispirited. Obviously, he had suffered a lot of injuries in the previous battle. Who else wants to compete with me? Divine light flickered in Sakura's eyes as he swept his gaze across the millions of demons around him. Wherever his gaze landed, the demons within that area all shifted their gazes away, not daring to look him in the eye. Even the patriarchs of the various clans had ugly expressions on their faces. The battle just now had left a deep impression in their hearts. Shocking. Too shocking. Compared to them, Jin Xian was almost at the same level. Most of the time, when they fought with each other, it would end in a draw. However, Jin Xian's attack was too fierce, and he was slightly stronger than them. Even a Gold Xian was defeated so cleanly under Sakura's hands. If they went up, there'd be no difference. Thinking about the scene where Jin Xian was smashed into the ground from the air, their faces couldn't help but twitch a few times. They were not on the same level at all. At this moment, looking at Shirtian again, they felt a great pressure just by standing there. The leaders of the various tribes looked at each other and saw the same thing in each other's eyes. After nodding at the same time, they respectfully knelt down in front of Shirtian, who was standing on the arena like a pillar that supported the sky, and said, "We are willing to submit to you, our king." Including Jin Xian, the 9 leaders kowtowed loudly in unison. Whether in terms of strength or status, Shirtian had proven that he was worthy of being the king of demons. "We are willing to submit to you, our king." With the 9 leaders taking the lead, suddenly, the millions of demons around the arena were like golden mountains and jade pillars. Their eyes were filled with respect and reverence, and they followed suit and kowtowed. Shirtian rose into the air and stepped on the void. With a determined look on his face, he said in a deep voice, "I, Shirtian, hereby swear that I will lead all of you to reverse the decline of the demon clan. I will lead the demon clan to rise again, and let the name of the demon clan rise again. Whoever dares to stand in my way, I will kill God and Buddha. Whoever is the demon king, I am the demon king, the king of demons." At this moment, the aura of supremacy from his body rose into the sky like a smoke signal, forming a dark cloud above his head. There was a vast pressure in the cloud that swept in all directions like a tide. His body seemed to be covered with a layer of mysterious color. At this moment, he was the king. "Rise, rise, rise to the top of the world. I will kill God and Buddha. Rise, rise, rise to the top of the world. I will kill God and Buddha." Below, the eyes of countless demons were filled with fanaticism, and they shouted crazily, as if they had already seen the scene of him rising to the top of the world. They roared excitedly. Wave after wave, it was endless. Shirtian's arrival had ignited the blood of the demons in the mystic realm. Their yearning for the outside world had become abnormally urgent. In the belly of a mountain, a huge cave residence had been opened up. There were various decorations in the cave residence, and it had a strong, ancient charm. There were various patterns and drawings carved on the stone walls. In the drawings, there were all kinds of scenes such as the great war of gods and demons, the worship of thousands of beasts, and so on. It seemed to be a record of some kind of historical event. It was unusually mysterious. The cave residence was very big, and it had all kinds of facilities. Some were used for living, some were used for receiving guests, and some were used for practicing martial arts. At this moment, in a spacious hall for receiving guests, Shirtian was sitting in the main seat. Below them, there were 2 rows of seats on each side. Old Fox, Jin Xian, and the others took their seats one by one and sat down respectfully. The 9 great patriarchs and some patriarchs from other tribes filled up the hall. After a short conversation, Shirtian had a general understanding of the situation of the demons in the mystic realm. The demons here were divided into different clans, and the 9 clans were the largest. In the entire mystic realm, the 9 clans were the mainstream. It could be said that most of the demons here were from the 9 clans. Moreover, the 9 clans were personally moved in by Ziyu. Her purpose was to protect the 9 clans. After learning about them, Shirtian understood why Ziyu did not choose the other clans, but only the 9 clans. In fact, the 9 clans were the clans with the greatest potential and the most powerful bloodlines among the countless clans of the demon clan. Which 9 clans were they? First, there was the group of golden-winged giant rocks that Jin Xian belonged to. There were 40 to 50,000 of them, and they had the bloodline of the golden-winged giant rocks. They were extremely fierce in the sky and were the top among the demon birds. Once they succeeded in cultivation, they would be far stronger than ordinary demons. In the end, they could even eat the flood dragons. This was a clan. Then there was the Fox clan that who belonged to. The Fox clan was not just an ordinary clan. There were various special fox clans, such as the Snow Fox, the Nine-Life Fox, the Fire Fox, and so on. All kinds of fox clans had gathered to form this large clan. Moreover, foxes were known for their intelligence and had a unique talent in cultivation. Unfortunately, there was no nine-tailed celestial fox, the king of the fox clan here. The nine-tailed celestial fox was the most noble existence in the fox clan. This was another clan. Next was the lion clan of the five elements. Almost every member of the lion clan had amazing talent. Every one of them was born with the attributes of the five elements. Because of their attributes, they were given a magical ability to escape from substances of the same attribute as them. They were born with the ability to escape from the five elements. For example, an earth lion had the ability to escape from the earth when it was born. The others were the same. They were very strange. Then there was the plant clan. This clan had an extremely long lifespan. There were even elders in the clan who were still alive. Every time the purple thunder rain came, a group of plant elves would be born. They often had all kinds of magical abilities. This was the fourth clan. They were all big clans in the mystic realm. Then there was the dragon snake clan that lived in the flood dragon pool. Although they were called dragon snakes, they were no different from flood dragons. They just had the blood of the dragon clan in their bodies and cultivated the 9 dragon transformation incantation. According to the cultivation method, they could constantly stimulate their blood and transform into dragons. Once they cultivated, they would completely transform into the body of a divine dragon. The possibility of them transforming into dragons was higher than that of flood dragons. After all, flood dragons did not have the opportunity to transform into dragons. They would be flood dragons for life. To be continued. If you want to know more, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 442. Moreover, the sixth clan also had an extraordinary origin. Their bloodline advantage was not inferior to any other clan. They were called the Dragon Horse clan. According to ancient legends, the dragon horse was born from the water and had the bloodline of the dragon clan. Their nobility was not inferior to the dragon clan. Although their body shape was that of a horse, they had a single horn on their head. This horn was a dragon horn. It was a characteristic of the bloodline of the dragon clan. Because of this single horn, the dragon horse was also called a unicorn in the eyes of the world. Every dragon horse had a mystical power. The source of its power, the most powerful part, was its dragon horn. They liked beautiful things and were the closest to the fox clan. The seventh clan was the peacock clan. In this clan, they inherited the bloodline of the first peacock in the world. Their bloodline was also incomparably powerful. It was said that the first peacock had remarkable supernatural powers, especially the 5 divine lights behind him. They were called the 5-color divine lights. As long as it was in the 5 elements, no matter if it was a magic treasure or a living creature, nothing could escape from his divine feathers. It was a supernatural power that defied the natural order. The 8th clan was called the One-Legged Ox clan. They were shaped like an ox, with a white body and no horns. They had a foot under their body. When they went in and out of the water, there would be wind and rain. Their eyes were like the sun and moon, and their voice was like thunder. They were called the Kuei Ox. They were very fierce. Although the One-Legged Ox clan here was called the One-Legged Ox, they only had the blood of the one-legged ox in their bodies and were its descendants. They were not the real one-legged ox, but they also had some supernatural powers of the one-legged ox. They were not inferior to the other major clans. The last clan was called the Giant Bear clan. Each of them was born huge and tall like a giant. When they reached adulthood, each of their bodies would naturally grow to 300 to 400 feet. If they cultivated, their bodies would grow even more. They liked to fight hand to hand and were born with divine strength. They could pull up a mountain with a stretch of their hand. However, most of the people in this clan were straightforward and did not have any tricks up their sleeves. However, they were easily irritable. Once they were angered, the area within 100 miles would be flattened in an instant. The 9 great clans were heavily migrated by ZU in the past because the bloodline in their bodies was extremely powerful. Once they cultivated to a high level, the power of their bloodline would be aroused. Among those of the same level, they were almost the top existences. For ordinary demon clans, even 10 of them might not be able to defeat them. Their future potential was far greater than that of ordinary demons. This was also the reason why they were moved here. Of course, other than the 9 clans, there were other clans in the secret realm. After all, many ordinary animals had been moved into the secret realm in the past. There were many kinds of animals. Under the magical power of the purple thunder rain, some of them had spirituality and obtained opportunities in the rain and turned into demons. Therefore, other races also occupied a portion of the demon clan in the mystic realm. There were a total of 1,340,000 demons in the mystic realm. Among them, most of them were powerhouses who had reached the peak of the demonic beasts. There were also some newborn demons born in the recent abnormal purple thunder rain, but their physiques were all extraordinary. Fox Clan's first elder. Fox spirit greets my king. According to the Fox Clan's rules, the position of the Fox Clan's leader was taken up by the 9-tailed celestial fox, but there was none here. Therefore, who, the Fox Clan's grand elder, was the most respected leader. After the introductions, Hu and the others stood up at the same time and bowed respectfully to D. Shurtion again. His expression was solemn and dignified. It was as if this bow represented the true allegiance of the entire clan to him. Great Rock Clan's first elder, Jin Xian, greets my king. Jin Xian followed closely behind and said, he had personally asked D. Shurtion for advice, so he was the one who understood D. Shurtion's valiant strength the most. The strong were respected. Now that he had acknowledged D. Shurtion as his master, his tone was no longer as arrogant as before. Instead, there was a kind of sincere submission. Wood Elf Clan's elder, Mu Kuei, greets my king. I'm willing to follow my king and open up a new world. Mu Kuei was an old man, and his eyes were as wise as Hu's. Mu Kuei was the leader of the Wood Elves. Dragon Horse Clan's first elder, Long Yu, greets my king. My Dragon Horse Clan will follow my king's orders from now on. The Dragon Horse Clan's first elder was an extremely handsome young man with an amiable smile on his face. It made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze and couldn't help but feel close to him. His name was Long Yu. Although he looked young, he had lived for hundreds of years. Sometimes, things couldn't be judged from the surface. I, the Kuei cow, don't know how to speak, but I'm willing to follow my king to conquer the world. The Kuei Cow Clan's first elder was named after the Kuei cow. He was a tall and burly man with bronze-colored skin. His muffled voice carried a kind of straightforwardness. As long as this kind of person said something, even 10 horses wouldn't be able to pull him back. The weight of his words could be said to be heavy. Lion Clan's Sure Shi Tian will follow my king's orders. A majestic middle-aged man nodded solemnly and kowtowed to show his submission. Dragon Snake Clan's Shui Ling greets my king. Surprisingly, the strongest expert of the Dragon Snake tribe was a stunningly voluptuous woman. Her figure was exceptionally seductive, especially her snake-like waist. When she swayed, one saliva would flow out, and one soul would float out of one's body. Her appearance was only slightly inferior to Chun Shi and Bai Hu. Peacock greets my king. It was another woman. Peacock was dressed in a rainbow-colored robe. Her face had a touch of indifference, as if her temperament was like this. However, she still bowed. She represented the Peacock clan to show her submission. She acknowledged his identity as the king of demons. I, Xiongba, also represent the Bear clan to greet my king. Xiongba was even taller than the Kuei cow. Even if he was sitting, he was like a small giant, looking very simple and honest. He grinned and said loudly. His voice was like thunder, reverberating in the hall. It was so loud that there were bursts of rumbling sounds. Everyone, please rise. D. Shurtion sat on the throne above in an imposing manner. Hearing the words of submission from the 9 clans one after another, he was secretly delighted in his heart. However, he didn't reveal the slightest bit of it on his face. Instead, he revealed a kind of dense majesty. He nodded slightly and asked Hu and the rest to return to their seats. This time, my main purpose in coming here is to bring everyone out of the secret realm and return to the purple gold mainland. Tion didn't waste his breath and said his main purpose in a deep voice. Now that he had become the king of demons in the secret realm, they were his subordinates. Naturally, he had to bring them out of here. After all, there was a terrible restriction in the secret realm that prevented them from breaking through the realm of demons. Staying here, they would never be able to improve their strength. This was not what he wanted. What he wanted was a group of subordinates who could follow him and conquer the universe, not a group of weak demon beasts. It was imperative to help them improve their strength. He also knew that these demon clans in the mystic realm were not necessarily of the same mind as him. They would not even dream of completely subduing them in such a short period of time. The first step was just to subdue them. In the future, as long as he maintained his dominance and was so strong that no one dared to think of betraying him, he would use other methods to win their loyalty bit by bit. I'm now a third transformation realm Yao core. With the ultimate emperor mask, I'm an ancient demon king. Even if Hu and the rest leave, I'll give them the Linglong treasure pagoda to reverse time and space to cultivate. They won't be able to threaten me in a short period of time. By the time they reach my current realm, I'll have cultivated to a higher level. Qian's mind spun quickly. King, whose calm eyes flashed with a shocking light. He looked at Tian with a trembling voice and said, "We can really leave the secret realm." His face was full of anticipation and anxiety, as if he was afraid that it was just a joke. Even Jin Xian and the rest had the same expression. They had waited for too long, so long that they didn't know how many ancestor skeletons had been buried in the ancestral land. If they didn't leave, what awaited them would be a miserable old death. This kind of death, to them, was a kind of tragedy. Suddenly hearing that they could leave, their bodies couldn't help but tremble. That's right. Since I can come in, I naturally have a way to leave. Now, please return to your clans and tell them to pack up the things you need to take away. I'll give you 3 days to prepare. After 3 days, I'll let you leave the secret realm. Tian's expression was full of determination and confidence. Those who saw it couldn't help but feel a sense of trust in him. Tian wasn't lying. Since entering the secret realm, he felt that he could do whatever he wanted in the secret realm. He could control everything in this small world. And this ability to control the secret realm was completely given to him by the mark he had obtained after walking through the Wenxin Road. It seemed that the mark was a kind of recognition. In this state, he felt that he could easily send any of the demon clan members in the mystic realm out. After receiving Tian's notice, Hu and the others bid farewell and hurriedly returned to their clans, excitedly packing up the things they were going to take away. TSK. Lunatic D. Now you really have a strong foundation to lead the demon race to a new height. When these million demons grow up, they will be a great help to you. The 9 major clans, TSK, they were all famous clans in ancient times. That girl Zul left you a lot of wealth. When Tian had subdued the million demons and become the king of myriad demons, Dark hadn't interfered much. She had only watched quietly. Only now did she speak in a tone that said, "You've got a great deal." What was wealth? Having a group of subordinates with strong potential was the most precious wealth. To build the 1,000-demon city, it wasn't something that Sakura could do alone. He had to have that kind of powerful force and deep foundation to achieve the reputation of the 1,000-demon city. It's time to go to the myriad demon sect and take Mother back. After leaving the secret realm, Tian looked up at the sky, his eyes abnormally deep. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chijian.com. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 443. Mother. He looked into the void, as if he could see through the boundaries of time and space, and see the scene of the past. Yes, the white tiger's mother was indeed not as intelligent as humans, and she did not transform into a demonic beast. However, during the time they spent together, that great maternal love was something that he would never forget. The white tiger was unable to speak, but she was using her actions to fulfill her responsibilities as a mother. She was silently caring for her 3 children. That kind of motherly radiance had actually broken his heart back then. Every time she fed him milk, taught him how to hunt, and used her body temperature to protect him from the cold. Every scene had been deeply imprinted in his heart. Not saying anything did not mean that he did not care. He just silently savored the thick warmth. Even though more than 10 years had passed, the appearance of the white tiger was still clearly imprinted in his mind. Mother, brother, thousand beast sect. Deshurtian's gaze became deeper and deeper. His hands were tightly clenched into fists at some point in time. His fingernails dug into his flesh, and faint golden blood flowed out. However, he did not care at all. A cold and fierce expression appeared on his face. The hatred for his mother and brother being kidnapped by the Thousand Beast sect had been buried deep in his heart for more than 10 years. He had endured until now, so that one day he would have the powerful strength to return this monstrous hatred to the Thousand Beast sect. It's been more than 10 years, almost 20 years. Thousand Beast sect, if I, Deshurtian, don't turn your world upside down, how can I get rid of the hatred that has accumulated in my heart for almost 20 years? It's fine if my mother and brother are fine. If something happens to them, I will even dig up your ancestral graves. Deshurtian said with a ruthless and cold tone. The 7 sins divine melody was prepared for you. I will not leave even a chicken or dog alive in your Thousand Beast sect. Lunatic D, do you really intend to take over the Thousand Beast sect? Nether suddenly interjected and asked. However, his tone did not have any intention of dissuading Deshurtian. Instead, it was filled with anticipation. He wasn't someone who knew how to be tolerant. That's right. As a son, I let my mother suffer for 10 years without knowing if she was dead or alive. I'm already unfilial. Now that I have the qualifications to go to the Thousand Beast sect, if I let my mother or my brother suffer, then how can I still live in this world? Deshurtian said without hesitation, his voice filled with determination. Of course I won't stop you from saving your mother. But before you go to the Thousand Beast sect, I think you should first build the foundation of the Thousand Beast city. If you're fast enough, you might be able to create a rough framework of the demon city. Then, you can integrate the restriction of the god imprisoning sphere into it. Who knows, it might be a great help. Nether cried out in anticipation. As for the ancient divine city it saw on the Tianji Wanshu diagram, it still couldn't forget about it even now. It was looking forward to the completion of the 4 heavenly gates and erecting them in the 4 directions. It would also take the cloud-gathering banner to gather the clouds and lift up the divine city. That would be an unprecedented scene. Just the thought of it made his blood boil. Even he couldn't help but urge Deshurtian to act quickly. Build. The Thousand Beasts city must be built. Deshurtian said decisively. However, even if the foundation of the Thousand Beast city is really built, it can't be exposed to the Thousand Beast sect. I will go to the Thousand Beast sect personally. He knew very well that the construction of the demon city was definitely a huge project. Although he had already refined the 7 orifices exquisite pot that could refine divine crystals, he still needed a vast amount of materials to fuse with the power of incense and wish power. This project was definitely not something that could be described casually. One had to know that the mountain of materials he used previously only produced a few cubes of divine crystals, and they were all low-grade divine crystals. He wanted to use all the high-grade divine crystals to build the Thousand Beast city. That kind of consumption was terrifying. He didn't have any extravagant hopes that he could build something in a short time. It might take 10 years, 100 years, or even 1,000 years to build it. Strength. He still needed to accumulate strength. He clenched his fists tightly and secretly made up his mind. Looking around, the reversal of time in the 3rd heaven was already 100 times faster. Previously, he had only spent 12 years in the 2nd heaven. According to the plan, he had to cultivate in seclusion for a year in the outside world. The 2nd heaven was 50 years, so in the 3rd heaven, it would be 100 years. Excluding the previous consumption, he could cultivate in seclusion for another 70 to 80 years in the 3rd heaven. In this period of time, I must at least raise my cultivation to the peak of the third transformation of a monster core. Time flew by quickly as he secretly made up his mind. In the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. 3 days later, Chertion sent Hu and 1,000,000 beasts out of the secret territory as promised. They entered the exquisite pagoda. The beasts were excited, but their cultivation was too low. Once they came out, they were directly sent to the first heaven by the exquisite pagoda. They enjoyed a cultivation speed 10 times faster inside. Out of the secret territory, almost every beast did not waste any time. They greedily looked for a place to cultivate. Feeling that the shackles in their bodies had completely disappeared and their strength was clearly increasing, many beasts were so happy that they even shed tears. The bitterness of the past was not enough to be told to outsiders. As for the few strongest Gold Xian experts, they immediately attracted the form transformation beast tribulation and officially began to transform into beasts. Of course, this form transformation beast tribulation had been accumulated for countless years. They had cultivated in the beast realm for countless years and had long built a solid foundation. There was almost no danger as they went through the tribulation and condensed an inner core in their bodies. With regard to all these, Sakura was secretly rejoicing in his heart. The stronger they were, the stronger his own forces were. He was at ease as he cultivated in seclusion in the third heaven. Every day, he used the royal true force to refine his body and sharpen his blade skills. He constantly absorbed the power of desire and the power of heaven and earth to strengthen the Black Lotus. Because it had been refined once after the breakthrough, it became pure. However, in terms of quantity, it was almost half of the royal true force. He wanted to fill the empty Black Lotus with true force in this period of time. The western end of the purple gold continent, there is a mysterious place called the Realm of Beasts. It was said that this realm of beasts had countless different kinds of beasts. They were extremely ferocious. There was a country called the Great Luo Country nearby. There were some villages and towns nearby. A few bold people entered the realm of beasts out of curiosity and disappeared, never to come out again. Later, there were cultivators who came out and said that there were ferocious beasts everywhere. After entering, there was only a slim chance of survival. It was a dangerous place. Since then, no one dared to casually enter this strange mountain forest. The realm of beasts was extremely vast. There were several towering peaks in it. Huge halls and courtyards were built on top of the peaks. On top of the peaks, there were all kinds of powerful beasts running around wantonly. Moreover, on each of the peaks, there were large groups of people wearing green robes with the same style of jade ornaments on their waists. Obviously, they were disciples of the same sect. Looking at the bottom of the mountain, there was a towering stone tablet that was hundreds of feet tall. At the top of the stone tablet, there was a sculpture of a mysterious beast head. On the stone tablet, there were 3 ancient characters engraved in flamboyant calligraphy: Realm of Beasts. At the bottom of the mountain, there was a large group of disciples who were busy cultivating the fields. In the fields, there were large amounts of spirit grains and spirit plants. This area was located on a large-scale spirit vein. The spirit energy emitted from the spirit vein transformed the land into a miraculous spirit land. Even the soil in this spirit land could emit spirit energy. It was the most suitable for growing spirit plants. These spiritual items were for the disciples of the sect to eat. Spiritual grains and spiritual items contained spiritual chi. Eating them was extremely beneficial to one's cultivation. However, these tasks were usually left to the outer sect disciples. This type of disciple was the most numerous. At a glance, there were no less than 100,000 disciples. The realm of beasts had an extremely deep foundation. This was the kind of power and style that only a large sect with a long history could have. How could an ordinary sect support 100,000 disciples? The realm of beasts had 6 peaks and 1 main peak. On the main peak, there was a valley that was covered with countless restrictions. In the valley, countless iron chains were clanking. There was a faint tyrannical tiger roar coming from inside, causing the entire valley to shake violently. Senior Sister Yun, is this the guardian divine beast that our sect has been cultivating? It's pure white with a pair of wings on its back. Could it be the Four Directions divine beast white tiger that we've been cultivating? A curious and excited voice sounded in the valley. Yes, I heard from Master that he has found a way to stimulate the blood in some spirit beasts. This white tiger is only one of them. There are 3 more, the azure dragon, the black tortoise, and the vermilion bird. After successfully taming them, they will be the guardian divine beasts of our realm of beasts in the future. They can even form the powerful Four Directions divine beast formation. Senior Sister Yun said proudly. She was obviously very proud of her sect. In the valley, there were thick iron chains that extended from the mountain peak. There were no less than 7 or 8 of them. Each of them was incomparably tough and gave off a faint green light. A huge white tiger that was more than 100 feet tall was bound in the valley. This white tiger was truly awe-inspiring. A pair of snow-white wings grew out of its back, exactly the same as the western white tiger of the 4 mythical beasts in the legends. However, its body carried a dense, murderous aura. It did not need to do anything at all to frighten those with weak abilities to the point that their liver and guts were about to burst. Its 4 claws, neck, wings, tail, and even the tiger's body were all wrapped with tough iron chains. The white tiger's eyes were filled with a fierce look. It shook its body violently, causing the iron chains to become taut. Its terrifying divine power caused the entire valley to shake violently. There was only a fierce look in its eyes. There was no sense of reason or spirituality. In front of it stood 2 women. They were holding pieces of bloody meat in their hands. They threw them in front of the white tiger. Their eyes were shining with admiration. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author. I support the original reading. Chapter 444. Roar. The white tiger's eyes flashed with an ominous light. With a kind of irritation, it let out a roar that shook the sky. Circles of invisible ripples suddenly twisted the surrounding space inch by inch and spread out in all directions at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of the 2 girls. Then, the distorted space and the domineering roar of the tigers sounded. When it appeared 3 meters away from them, the 2 crystal-like jade pendants on their necks flashed with a stream of light. 2 invisible shields covered them. Within this range, their surroundings were like a vacuum. It was incomparably calm. The sound waves were blocked outside and could not touch them. As for the tiger's roar, it entered the shields and immediately turned into a gentle drizzle. There was no strong deterrence at all. The 2 girls were not affected in the slightest. They were still throwing live animals at the white tiger. However, the girl, who was only 15 or 16 years old, was still frightened by the fierce appearance of the white tiger. She patted her chest, which was still small, and stuck out her tongue, saying, "This white tiger is really fierce. Don't be afraid." Senior Sister Yun smiled and said, "I heard from my master that this white tiger has completely activated the bloodline in its body. After a while, the sect will use a secret technique to erase its consciousness. Then, the sect senior who lost his physical body will use his primordial spirit to take over this divine beast body. At that time, the white tiger will be the sect senior. It won't be fierce to us. If it is, it will be fierce to the 1,000 beast sect's enemies. When our sect gathers the 4 divine beasts, we will definitely become the top sect in the immortal cultivation world. We will become another holy land of immortal cultivation." In her eyes, there was a look of yearning and anticipation. It was as if she was looking forward to the day when the 4 divine beasts would gather in the sect and become the guardian divine beasts. Once the 4 phases divine beast formation was formed, it would definitely be the most powerful killing formation in the immortal cultivation world. Legend has it that since ancient times, the first 4 divine beasts that appeared on the purple gold continent The azure dragon, the white tiger, the black tortoise, and the vermilion bird became the four divine beasts of this world. Together with the central Qilin, they were the complete five divine beasts. The first five divine beasts did not fall, but after ancient times, they entered a long sleep. Until now, no one knew where they were sleeping. However, if the Thousand Beasts sect could really create the four divine beasts, it would indeed be an extraordinary method. Once it succeeded, its power would be so great that it would be able to protect the Thousand Beasts sect and dominate a region. However, the method they used to raise them was definitely extremely cruel and inhumane. Looking at the fierce glint in the white tiger's eyes, it was as if it had lost its rationality and its will. According to what the two women said, they even wanted to erase his consciousness. This method was so cruel that it was comparable to that of an evil demon. Dream of 1,000 years. Concoct it with dream recall grass, illusory heart fruit, jetacoagulate fruit, alcohol fruit, drunken immortal grass, and so on. Store it for 1,000 years to ferment. Only then will the spirit wine become effective. After drinking it, you will experience a dreamlike state in which you will experience everything you want to experience. Tian was silently cultivating in the pagoda. The royal true force in his body, under the 9 times amplification, was growing at an almost constant rate. He could feel the wonderful increase in strength at an extremely fast speed. Life in the pagoda was very regular. Cultivation, saber techniques, zither techniques, curse techniques, all sorts of techniques and divine abilities were being cultivated. At the same time, the matter of brewing spirit wine was on the agenda. In the past, he had been pressed for time and hadn't had much time to focus on brewing spirit wine. Of all the spirit wine recipes recorded in the Wine God's Treasure Compendium, he had only been able to brew profound ice jade fire wine. Now that he had some free time, he focused on brewing spirit wine and began to brew the spirit wine described in the Wine God's Treasure Compendium. Brewing spirit wine was a profound skill that was no less profound than pill concocting. What medicinal pills could do, spirit wines could do as well. Furthermore, spirit wines could fuse the medicinal strength of various spirit medicines together and use time as a furnace to extract the medicinal strength. When the medicinal strength was perfectly fused, it would manifest itself in the form of wine. When consuming medicinal pills, one had to pay attention to the accumulation of medicinal toxins in the body. That would harm the body, but wine wouldn't. Similarly, when brewing spirit wine, one had to pay attention to things that were no less important than pill concocting. For example, the quantity and even the water used during the brewing process were all related. Pill concocting used the cauldron as the furnace, and one had to pay attention to the control of the fire. Brewing spirit wine used time as the furnace. The longer the time, the stronger the wine would be. There was no need to be afraid of the control of the fire. Tian silently recalled the spirit medicines needed to brew the dream of 1,000 years from the Shennone's Paradise painting. He took them out one by one. Over the years, whenever he went to a place, he would try his best to collect all kinds of spirit quenches of heaven and earth and plant them in the Shennone's Paradise painting. The painting had the best environment. Each spirit essence grew at an unimaginable speed, bloomed and bore fruit, dropped seeds, sprouts, and so on. At this moment, a large number of spirit essences had been gathered in the grotto heaven. Moreover, they had all multiplied in the grotto heaven and could be used for a long time. The dreamy dream recall grass that grew like a cloud of smoke emitted a strong wine fragrance. The intoxicating wine fruit and the drunken immortal grass. One by one, they were quickly placed in front of him. Wine God's gourd. In the jade light, a wine God's gourd full of spirituality was held in his hand. He opened the lid of the gourd and patted it lightly. The gourd emitted a devouring force and first sucked the illusory heart grass into the gourd. Inside the gourd, there was a naturally formed wine brewing pool in the center. After the illusory heart grass was sucked into the gourd, it appeared in the pool in the blink of an eye. In the wine brewing pool, there were countless mysterious seal scripts. These seal scripts emitted a mysterious halo. Cold pool, mysterious ice water. With another light shout, another small jade gourd was taken out. In this gourd, there was cold pool water collected in the past. Water quality was also very important in brewing wine. Without good water, how could one brew good spirit wine? A stream of water that emitted a cold air spurted out from the jade gourd. Then, it was wantonly swallowed by the wine god's gourd. This stream of cold water also fell into the wine brewing pool and wrapped around the illusory heart grass. Chertion formed a seal with both hands and struck it into the gourd. Immediately, the countless seal scripts in the wine brewing pool flickered with divine light, forming divine seal scripts that fell into the pool water, causing the cold water in the pool to spin strangely, driving the illusory heart grass. Waves of mysterious power seeped in and stimulated the medicinal power of the illusory heart grass. Now it's the wine fruit. He placed the wine fruit into the wine brewing pond. The moment the wine fruit entered the pond, it magically melted and blended into the water. Immediately, the water in the pond became filled with the aroma of wine. It was incomparably fragrant. The wine fruit was the catalyst for brewing wine. Only with it would there be the taste of wine. Once it melted, with the rotation of the pool water, it seeped into every drop of wine evenly. Next is the condensed jade fruit. Drunken immortal grass, dream-recalling grass. Chertion's mind was in the best state. He concentrated on following the method described in the wine recipe and sent various spiritual herbs into the gourd one by one. In his hand, he continuously struck the unique wine god mantra that was needed to brew spirit wine into the wine god's gourd. This set of seals was a set of seals that was necessary to drive the gourd to brew spirit wine. With this set of seals, not only would the quality of the spirit wine brewed be higher, but it would also allow the spiritual herbs during the brewing process to fully exert their medicinal power. Not a single bit was wasted, so that the medicinal power of these different spiritual herbs could be perfectly fused together. Otherwise, if the medicinal power clashed, the brewing process might fail. In this process, the grasp of timing, the control of seals, and all other aspects were extremely taxing on one's mind. Done. For an entire day, Chertion struck countless seals into the wine god's gourd. Suddenly, the gourd shook violently, and a strange wine fragrance sprayed out from the gourd. The wine fragrance floated out and condensed into a cloud of white smoke. This cloud of wine mist did not dissipate. It floated in front of Chertion, rolling and changing into various shapes, flowers, birds, and insects. It was very mysterious. With a sniff, one's mind suddenly went into a trance. Many images suddenly appeared in one's mind, as if one was about to fall into some kind of dream. Dream of 1,000 years is indeed magical. Just a breath of wine has the power to make one enter a dream. If you wait for 1,000 years before taking it out, the power will be even more magical. Indra gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and his eyes flickered with wisps of light. Unfortunately, this dream of 1,000 years wasn't completely brewed yet, because it still needed 1,000 years as a great furnace to make it mellow. Only then could the medicinal power perfectly fuse together and truly have a magical power to make people dream of 1,000 years. It's time to see what the third type of spirit wine is. With a flash of light in his hand, he once again summoned the wine god's treasure book from his body. He opened it and saw that there were 3 pieces of paper made of jade. On the first page, there was an illustration of the mysterious ice jade fire wine, as well as the recipe to brew it. On the second page, there was an illustration of the dream of 1,000 years. However, the third page was completely blank. It was completely white, and there was nothing on it. Drip. Picking up the wine god's gourd, Yangqi moved the wine from the brewing pond to another storage space. Then he tipped the gourd, causing a drop of translucent wine to drip down onto the blank jade page. Swish! As soon as the drop of wine landed on the jade page, it mysteriously seeped into it and then vanished. Then a snow-white light flashed, causing the jade page to ripple with dazzling light. Instantly, A large number of ancient seal scripts and illustrations appeared. Bone-forging blood mushroom wine. It was brewed from the bones of powerful animals. Seven-leaf lingji mushrooms, thousand-year-old snow ginseng, winegrass, and thousand-year-old blood ginseng. It had the miraculous effect of tempering bones and strengthening marrow. It could also increase one's cultivation base. It could reconnect broken bones and cleanse one's muscles and marrow. High-grade, profound-grade spirit wine. Every time he wanted to know the recipe for the next type of spirit wine, he had to first brew the first type of spirit wine and then drip it onto the new Jade page. This was none other than the recipe for the third type of spirit wine. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 445. Spirit wine was divided into grades, which were also divided by heaven, earth, black, and yellow. Heaven rank was the highest, yellow rank was the lowest. Among the previous few spirit wines, the monkey wine itself was a black rank middle-grade spirit wine. However, the spirit wine would continue to become more and more mysterious according to the length of time. Often, the longer the time, the grade was constantly changing. For example, the 100-year-old monkey wine was a black rank upper-grade spirit wine. The 1,000-year-old monkey wine was an earth rank lower-grade spirit wine, and the 10,000-year-old monkey wine was an earth rank middle-grade spirit wine. Spirit wine was calculated by age. Every 100 years, 1,000 years, and 10,000 years, its quality would automatically rise by one grade. Each spirit wine was the same. The mysterious Ice Jade Fire wine was also a black rank lower grade spirit wine, and the Dream of 1,000 Years was a yellow rank upper grade spirit wine. However, once it really reached 1,000 years, it would naturally be promoted to black rank middle grade spirit wine. It can reconnect broken bones, cleanse the muscles and marrow, and even increase one's cultivation. This kind of spirit wine can be used to strengthen the body. It's not bad. Among the medicinal pills in the cultivation world, there shouldn't be any medicinal pills with the same effects as the bone-forging blood Ganoderma wine. I have all the materials needed. Powerful bones? The strength of the savage beast is all in the flesh and blood of the body. The bones must be equally powerful. D. Shirtion saw the bone-forging blood Ganoderma wine, and his eyes flashed with a touch of light. He had just finished brewing the Dream of 1,000 Years, and had a strong interest in brewing spirit wine. He did not intend to stop. He secretly thought about it, and found that he also had these materials in his collection. Moreover, using the bones of the savage beast as a substitute, it would inevitably make the spirit wine stronger. Without any hesitation, he began to brew the third type of spirit wine in one go. In the Wine God's Treasure Book, Jiu Xian collected a total of 108 kinds of spirit wine recipes. These few kinds had already surprised him. The more the spirit wine recipe, the more precious it would be. Spirit wine must be more magical. Spirit wine will inevitably become a major feature of my Thousands Demon City in the future. Taking out all kinds of materials, he once again entered the intense brewing. With the help of the wine god's gourd, brewing wine was almost successful. Coupled with D. Shirtian's current cultivation, the brewing was very smooth. 3 days later, the bone-forging blood Ganoderma wine was successfully brewed again. Then it was out of control. While cultivating, he brewed spirit wine. He had actually brewed the 7 types of spirit wines listed in the Wine God's Treasure Book. Adding the first 3 types, there were a total of 10 types. The remaining 7 types were the 1,000 Days Drunk Immortal Wine, which was the spirit wine that Katomi had once used to make D. Shirtian drunk. This kind of wine didn't have many other effects, but it was a rare wine. One couldn't drink too much at one time. If one drank too much, they would get drunk. After getting drunk, they wouldn't be able to wake up for 1,000 days. It was a low-grade yellow-ranked spirit wine. Heart-cleansing Bodhi wine. A spirit wine brewed with blood Bodhi as the main ingredient and various other high-grade spirit herbs, such as ginseng, Ganoderma, sealwort, and so on. It has the effect of cleansing one's heart and calming one's mind and expelling one's inner demons. It can even increase the cultivation of demon kings. If consumed consistently, it is extremely beneficial to cultivation. It was a low-grade, earth-rank spirit wine. Essence-returning wine. A spirit wine brewed with essence-returning fruit as the main ingredient, essence-cultivating fruit, and various other precious spirit herbs. Although it doesn't have the effect of increasing one's cultivation, it can quickly restore one's depleted dermic powers. It has an outstanding effect on those below the Demon King level. In other words, it has a magical power when one is undergoing tribulation in the immortal cultivation world. It was a rare spirit wine. It was a mid-grade, mystic spirit wine. 1000 Ganoderma Snow Ginseng Wine. A spirit wine brewed with various Ganoderma, snow ginseng, and other spirit herbs. It is a great tonic wine. Drinking a mouthful can increase one's cultivation by 10 years. Moreover, the wine is not overbearing. It is very gentle and easy to absorb. In times of crisis, it can save one's life. With this spirit wine, even if one's life is in danger, one can live for another 3 days. It was a high-grade mystic spirit wine. 1000 fruits and 100 herbs wine. A spirit wine brewed with various spirit fruits, such as immortal peaches, apricots, plums, and hundreds of rare spirit herbs. It also has the effect of calming one's heart, nourishing one's meridians, and increasing one's cultivation. It was a low-grade, mystic spirit wine. Then there's the 100 Flowers Immortal Wine. Chunshi used to brew this kind of spirit wine frequently. Back then, when Sakura went to the 100 Flowers Valley, he also transplanted many flower seeds into the farmer god's paradise diagram. When it was brewed, it was very light. The last one was quite magical. It was the illusory spirit concealment wine brewed with the illusory spirit grass as the main ingredient. The illusory spirit grass itself was very magical. It could turn one's body into an illusion and was difficult to find. It was really a rare, life-saving treasure. Back then, Deshirtian had also relied on it to escape several dangers. It was an extremely rare spirit herb. Now, it was brewed into wine, and its true effect was fully displayed. As long as one drank a mouthful, it was enough to completely turn one's body into an illusion and hide in the void. One mouthful could last for an hour. It was a rare spirit wine. It was a low-grade, earth-grade spirit wine. Each of these 7 spirit wines was not the slightest bit inferior to any elixir. Among them, a few of the spirit wines were even more magical. Especially the illusory spirit concealment wine, it was even more magical. It was a treasure that everyone wanted to obtain. If it was taken out for auction, who knew how many experts would fight over it? When he finished brewing the last illusory spirit concealment wine, it was already the 10th year in the 3rd heaven. Moreover, it was when he saw the illustration of the 11th spirit wine in the wine god's treasure mirror, the forgotten love wine. Suddenly, his heart beat violently. He woke up with a start. This is... Deshirtian instantly looked up and scanned his surroundings. His heart was beating wildly. This meant that something that was connected to his mind was happening. At the same time, he saw that the imperial phoenix egg, which he had moved to the 3rd heaven, was emitting a tricolored divine light. Between heaven and earth, an enormous amount of spirit energy of heaven and earth was like swallows returning to their nest. They frantically rushed towards the big egg. The spirit energy had condensed to the point of liquefying, forming a huge vortex around the big egg. A huge amount of spirit energy was continuously pouring into the egg. An imperial phoenix egg. Could it be that the imperial phoenix egg is about to be born? Deshirtian had originally been very interested in brewing wine, but now that he was looking forward to it, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. An imperial phoenix? If an imperial phoenix was about to be born, it would mean that he would have an imperial phoenix by his side in the future. Thinking back to the time when he had been chased by an imperial phoenix, he couldn't help but think about how powerful it was and how terrifying its feathers were. He couldn't help but fantasize about having an imperial phoenix as a mount in the future. How awesome would that be? TSK. Crazy Emperor. If this imperial phoenix really is about to be born, you have to treat it well and nurture it. It'll definitely surprise you in the future. It'll be a great help to you. When it grows up, it'll be a top-class beast. With the preparations we made last time, it'll be very close to you and treat you like a parent. When the time comes, you just have to nurture it well. It'll never betray you. Ming also said with a weird smile in an envious tone. It was obvious that he cared a lot about this imperial phoenix. He had a high opinion of it, and even placed it in the ranks of top-class savage beasts. There was a flash of light in Sakura's eyes. How could he not know how rare this opportunity was to have a savage beast with great potential as a mount and as a helper? Rumble. As more and more spiritual chi of heaven and earth was poured into the imperial phoenix egg, the divine light on it became stronger and stronger. At the same time, the devouring power it emitted became even more terrifying. Endless spiritual chi poured into the egg like a tide, causing the surrounding void to vibrate violently. The amount of spiritual chi that was being devoured by the strange egg had reached a huge volume. Di Shirtian just watched quietly from the side. The next moment, this situation lasted for a full hour. The amount of spiritual chi that was being devoured was almost immeasurable. It was so huge that even Di Shirtian was a little shocked. However, in his heart, he was looking forward to the little guy that had caused such a huge commotion before it was even born. It would definitely not be an ordinary guy. Boom! Finally, the three divine lights that surrounded the egg shone and reflected each other. With a loud bang, all the surrounding spiritual chi of heaven and earth were devoured. At the same time, the terrifying devouring power also dissipated. One was moving and one was still. It was extremely strange. After the imperial phoenix egg that had just caused a huge commotion swallowed the last bit of spiritual chi, it became strangely silent. Even the three divine lights that appeared on the egg instantly disappeared. Silence. It was so quiet that it was a little scary. The sudden change was really shocking and hard to accept. However, Di Shirtian's expression was still calm and did not change at all. He just quietly looked at the imperial phoenix egg as if he was waiting for something to happen. Crack! Suddenly, in this silent scene where even the sound of a needle falling to the ground could be heard, a crisp cracking sound was heard. It was abnormally ear-piercing. It's coming, Di Shirtian thought to himself, and looked more carefully at the egg. Under his sharp gaze, he could clearly see that there was a thin and long crack on the hard egg. This crack spread in all directions. It was unusually conspicuous. Crack! Sure enough, there was a cracking sound one after another. Clear cracks continuously appeared on the egg, densely packed like a spider web, and quickly spread in all directions. In almost a few breaths, these cracks were completely distributed over every inch of the egg. Bang! With a boom, the strange egg that was full of cracks shattered on the spot, as expected, turning into countless fragments that fell to the ground. Ow! However, Di Shirtian's gaze was not on the egg at all. A moment ago, it had already fallen on a strange bird the size of a palm that was standing on the egg after it broke. That strange bird's entire body was wrinkled, and there wasn't even any hair on its body. Its two wings were bare, so delicate that one could see the flesh under the skin with the naked eye. There were numerous meridians, and there was a sharp claw on each of its wings. However, there wasn't the slightest bit of deterrence to speak of. On its tail, there were three dim divine feathers that looked like chopsticks. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 446. That's an Emperor Phoenix. Sakura's expression was somewhat excited. His pair of sparkling eyes stared at the strange bird that was only the size of a palm and looked very pocket-sized. Although it was a little small, its appearance was exactly the same as the two terrifying existences that he had seen before. It also had three divine feathers on its back and a pair of sharp claws under its wings. Including the pair of claws under its body, it had 4 sharp claws. Other than the emperor phoenix bird, he had never seen such a similar bird. Scree! Scree! The little emperor phoenix broke out of its shell and looked around anxiously, as if it were looking for something. When it saw Chertion, its eyes lit up, and it began to walk toward him. But then it tilted its head and thought for a moment. It lowered its head and looked at the broken eggshells under its feet. It lowered its head and bit down on a piece of eggshell. In just a few bites, it chewed and swallowed the eggshell. Then it continued to attack the other eggshells. One by one, it quickly swallowed all the eggshells around it. As it swallowed the eggshells, the little emperor phoenix's body began to glow with 3 different colors. Its body began to change at a speed visible to the naked eye. First, on its wings, tiny feathers that were suffused with divine light quickly grew out. The feathers on its body were actually snow white, making it look exceptionally mystical. Furthermore, the originally dimmed divine light of the 3 divine feathers trailing behind him began to shine brighter and brighter. Divine light flowed and emitted a mysterious halo. Its swaying steps became steady in the blink of an eye. From its body, one could feel that its life aura was constantly strengthening and even sublimating in the process of devouring the eggshell. It was truly miraculous. Seeing this change, Sakura couldn't help but let out a cry of bewilderment. He curiously said, "Strange, I have seen the imperial phoenix bird before." The original imperial phoenix bird had a pair of fleshy wings like a bat. How did this little guy grow feathers? Could it be that some mutation has occurred? He remembered this very clearly. He had a very deep impression of the imperial phoenix bird, so there was no reason for him to remember it wrongly. The little guy in front of him was clearly different from its parents. It actually had feathers growing out of its wings. TSK, it really did mutate. Last time, I fused your bloodline into the egg. In the end, this little emperor phoenix also had your bloodline. The two fused together and mutated a little, but it doesn't seem to be much. It's just feathers growing out of its wings. Maybe it will have some special abilities when it grows up. Anyway, it can't be a bad thing. Dark wasn't surprised to see the snow-white feathers growing out of the little emperor phoenix's body. Instead, it was happy. Usually, when a bird mutated, it would gain some abilities it didn't have before. Maybe it would have them. Roar! In the blink of an eye, the little emperor phoenix finished eating all the eggshells. Only then did it raise its head to look at Sakura. Its eyes were filled with a kind of intimacy and joy, as if it had seen its parents. Its 2 little wings that had just grown out flapped, and it actually slowly flew up, swaying as it pounced toward Sakura. Chertion didn't try to stop it. His eyes were filled with joy as he watched the emperor phoenix flapping its wings. It happily landed on his left shoulder and rubbed its sharp golden beak affectionately on his neck. It was as attached to him as if he was a parent. Haha, crazy emperor, you've really picked up a treasure this time. If you cultivate it in the future, it will be stronger than anything else. Ming couldn't help but exclaim in an envious tone, as if he had just picked up a great bargain. Roar! Roar! The little emperor phoenix suddenly pecked at Chertion's neck and let out a hurried whimper. Its 2 claws grabbed a lock of hair by his ear and pulled it. Its eyes were filled with desire as it looked at Chertion. When Chertion saw this, he couldn't help but feel a trace of love. Ever since this little guy was born, he had felt that there was a connection between him and this little guy. Even their minds were connected. Although this little guy's intelligence was not high, its spirituality was very shocking. From its consciousness, he could clearly feel that this little guy really treated him like a parent. That kind of joy came from its soul. Although it couldn't speak, relying on that mysterious connection, Chertion also understood why this little guy was looking at him with eager eyes. Little guy, you're hungry, right? A faint smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he placed his hand on the little emperor phoenix's head and gently stroked it a few times. The little fellow seemed to be enjoying this and narrowed its eyes as if it really liked this kind of action. Dark, what is the emperor phoenix going to feed it? Are you going to find insects for it? Sakura hurriedly consulted Ming in his mind. The Emperor Phoenix, needs to be cultivated. Ordinary things won't do, especially at the beginning. The first meal is the most important. It can increase its development potential, and it won't be needed in the future. You want to catch insects for it? If this was in ancient times, people would laugh their heads off. Dark said with some amusement. Fortunately, you have some family background. Otherwise, even if this Emperor Phoenix hatches, it will be difficult to cultivate it into a powerful assistant. The first feeding is the key to its growth. It has to do with its foundation and foundation. If this little guy's parents were here, they might directly hunt down savage beast kings and feed them with the blood of savage beast kings. They would use countless heavenly treasures to nourish their bodies. They would use treasures that would make even the sky demons jealous to feed their children. Only then can their newborn children's potential become incomparably strong and their vitality become incomparably strong. Tion was shocked. He couldn't help but be surprised by the method savage beasts used to cultivate their offspring. Indeed, in order to cultivate their offspring, parents would go crazy. I have savage beast flesh, but I don't have savage beast king's blood. The two Emperor Phoenix were thrown into the black coffin by the Shurimo. Should I use heavenly treasures? Tion secretly pondered. Suddenly, a light flashed in his mind. He understood what Dark had said. His eyes flashed with a strange light. He said in surprise, Dark, do you mean that I should use the source of life to feed this little guy? Haha, are you stupid? The source of life can only be encountered by chance. It contains the purest and enormous vitality. It is a supreme treasure that can be compared with the source of the world. To be honest, when you use the source of life to buy things at the auction, if it weren't for the fact that you really needed it and that you needed it to build the demon city, you wouldn't have used it to exchange for those things. Dark chuckled and yelled, think about it. If you feed this little guy on your shoulder with the source of life, the tremendous life, original power of the source of life will enter its body and nourish it. As for the savage beast, all of its power is in its body. To the little guy, it has endless benefits. Feed it as much as you can. TSK. Could it be that I, Dark, will see the birth of a supreme, sovereign-level savage beast one day? How wonderful would that be? As it spoke, even it fell into a kind of wild imagination. Emperor-level savage beasts were the strongest existence among savage beasts, just like the peerless experts in the world. There were records that stated that they might be even stronger than the strongest ones in the world. Ming remembered the destructive power. In the ancient demon clan, there were 10 peerless masters who besieged an emperor-level savage beast. Not only did the battle shake the heavens and the earth, but 3 of the peerless masters were blown to smithereens on the spot. The remaining 7 were also severely injured. They had to pay a great price to finally kill the savage beast. One could imagine how powerful and sovereign-level savage beast was. If the little Emperor Phoenix could really become a sovereign-level savage beast, how terrifying would that be? How? Sakura fell in a deep thought. When the little Emperor Phoenix bird saw that he was in a daze and ignoring it, it couldn't help but peck at his neck anxiously. Its 2 little claws kept pulling that strand of hair, trying to attract his attention. Its 2 eyes were pitiful. Ha! Tion let out a rare laugh at this little guy. He gently patted its little head and said, You little guy, I won't let you starve. Come. Tion didn't hesitate to take out a green, crystal-like life source seed from his storage ring and put it in front of the little Emperor Phoenix. When the little fellow saw the source seed, its eyes instantly lit up and it let out a cheerful cry. It placed its head on Tion's neck and intimately rubbed against it a few times. Then it impatiently pecked and swallowed the source seed. Whoosh! As soon as the source seed entered its stomach, it immediately erupted with a huge amount of life force. Fortunately, the Emperor Phoenix's body was naturally strong. The life force quickly permeated into its body. Divine light surrounded its body, and under its feathers, countless rays of divine light were quickly shuttling back and forth. A huge amount of life force was continuously fusing into its body. He could clearly feel that the life force in its body was growing at an astonishing speed. It was incomparably powerful. Roar! Ignoring the countless rays of divine light that were shuttling through its body, the little Emperor Phoenix opened its eyes again and looked at Di Shirtion with an expectant gaze. Di Shirtion smiled faintly. The source seed's power was only beneficial to the body. Seeing that it still wanted more, he wasn't stingy and took out another one. In the blink of an eye, it was devoured. This happened again and again. The Emperor Phoenix was like a bottomless pit. It continuously devoured hundreds of seeds of life before it stopped. It looked like it was about to fall into a deep sleep. However, even so, its two claws were still firmly grasping Di Shirtion's shoulders. "Ha! Seeing that you have more feathers than the other ancestors, I'll call you Yua from now on." Di Yua. Sakura's eyes carried a touch of gentleness as he looked at the little fellow whose divine light had suddenly converged. He muttered to himself for a moment and gave it a name. Moreover, he discovered that this little fellow was female. Although its eyes were closed, when the Emperor Phoenix heard that it had a name, it clearly exuded a joyful aura. Don't worry about it. After eating so many sour seeds, it will definitely build a strong foundation after digesting them. It will take a long time for it to completely absorb them. Dark clicked his tongue. He looked at the Emperor Phoenix with a sigh. It was really terrifying. It had swallowed over 100 sour seeds in one go. Now, who knew how much life force was flowing through its body? Sakura didn't say much. He only gave it a gentle look and once again entered the state of cultivation that he had always been in. Time flowed forward like a river. In the blink of an eye, it had been almost a year since Di Shirtion had entered the sky-reaching tower. However, in the sky above the sea not far from the island where Di Shirtion was cultivating in seclusion, at some point in time, a peerless beauty dressed in a rainbow-scaled robe quietly stepped on the ripples. A strange roar came from her mouth. It had an extremely strong, penetrating power and spread in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area of 100 miles. Bang, bang, bang. Violent waves suddenly swept up on the calm surface of the sea. Huge waves soared into the sky. Within the waves, there were many huge and slender figures that were surging along with the waves, rapidly gathering towards this peerless beauty. Looking at the silhouettes that kept coming out of the sea, they were actually blood-colored pythons. These pythons were densely covered with countless scales. On their heads, there was a blood-red horn. Each of them gave off a ferocious and bloody aura. Their lantern-like eyes were filled with ferocious light. Obviously, they weren't kind creatures. They didn't have an inner core in their bodies. Instead, they had a huge amount of life force. Their bodies were extremely strong. Obviously, these were the characteristics of savage beasts. Moreover, their ferocious aura was comparable to that of a first transformation monster beast. Among them, there was a blood python with the thickest horn. It had a terrifying aura that was comparable to that of a third transformation monster beast. It seemed to be the leader. However, when they saw the peerless beauty, they respectfully lowered their proud heads. It was as if they had seen the queen of their clan. This was a kind of pressure that came from one's bloodline. The girl wasn't excited at all about the arrival of the hundreds of blood pythons. She just nodded calmly. Even so, all the blood pythons were excited and kept roaring. Suddenly, the girl glanced into the distance. There was a look of disgust in her eyes. She snorted coldly. The four holy lands are really persistent. After chasing me for more than a year, I didn't expect you to come back so soon. However, with these blood pythons, I'll teach you all a lesson. Looking at the north, a group of black dots was rushing towards the girl. In the blink of an eye, they were nearby. At this time, their appearances could be seen clearly. All of them were wearing black robes and were stepping on auspicious clouds. Stepping on the auspicious clouds, they looked like immortals. They seemed to have a kind of otherworldly aura. And the leader was the most outstanding disciple of the great void palace of the four great sacred grounds, Taishian. On Taishian's body, the ethereal, illusory, An otherworldly aura was even stronger than before. He held the mysterious Taishu treasure mirror in his hand, and his clothes fluttered in the wind, making him look even more elegant. Tai Xian was the leader of this group of 7 disciples. Seeing the girl standing calmly on the sea, he stopped not far away and said calmly, "Miss Medusa, after this year, I'm sure you know that with your 3rd transformation monster beast cultivation, you can't escape from our search. I hope you can consider coming to the Great Void Palace as a guest for a while." Tai Xian, as a direct disciple of the Great Void Palace, promises you that no one will hurt you in the Great Void Palace. Otherwise, if we fight, it won't look good for both of us. His indifferent tone contained an inexplicable pressure and a trace of strength. It was as if his words were law. Medusa's expression turned cold. She snorted disdainfully and said, "What kind of intentions do you have? How can you be so rude to me? To put it nicely, you're inviting me as a guest. To put it bluntly, you just want to use me to threaten my mother. You 4 holy lands don't have the ability to walk in front of my mother, but you come up with such dirty tricks. Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" There was an unconcealable anger in her voice, and her face was full of disdain. After saying that, she didn't want to say anything else. She ordered the hundreds of blood pythons around her. Blood pythons formed the blood river. Hiss! As soon as she said that, the blood pythons around her all revealed bloodthirsty lights at the same time. They roared toward the sky, filled with the smell of blood. They soared into the air from the sea one after another. Countless rays of bloody light shot out from their bodies, and their bodies strangely turned into balls of bloody water. The bloody water formed by hundreds of blood pythons gathered together. In an instant, they formed a rolling river of blood that was hundreds of feet long. In the river of blood, the blood pythons reappeared. They kept rolling and shuttling in it. The thick smell of blood immediately filled the entire sea. An incomparably ferocious aura was emitted from this blood river. After it was formed, it kept revolving around Medusa, supporting her on the blood river. The blood pythons had such a strange innate ability. "Since you insist on fighting, then I have no choice but to offend Tai Xian." When Tai Xian saw the surging blood river, his eyes narrowed slightly. However, his voice was still calm, as usual. It was as if nothing could shake his mind. The Taishu treasure mirror in his hand flipped open. Pages of silk paper that was neither gold nor jade were filled with edicts that were like heavenly laws. In his right hand, a yellow iron pen had appeared out of nowhere. The iron pen was like a knife that could determine life and death. The silk book in the Taishu treasure mirror flipped to a blank page, and the iron pen in his hand started to write on it. "The infinite void, heaven's will to me, imperial decree." To be continued. If you want to know the rest, please go to www.chidian.com for more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 447. Edict. Lock the blood river in the void. As Tai Xian spoke, the iron pen in his hand continued to write on the silk. He turned the words into words and wrote them out. At the same time, a mysterious force flowed from his body into the iron pen and turned into ink. Every word was written with this mysterious force. When the iron pen made the last stroke, a mysterious force was emitted from the Taishu treasure mirror and disappeared into the void. Rumble. Then, when the blood river controlled by Medusa charged toward Tai Xian and the others with a roar, a crystal pillar formed from the power of the void space suddenly appeared in front of the blood river. It turned into a huge cage and imprisoned the entire blood river. It was like a bird in a cage. There was no road to heaven and no door to hell. The cage formed by the crystal pillars emitted a kind of invisible spatial power that tightly bound the cage. There was not the slightest opening to escape. It was extremely strange. Bang! The blood river roared and crashed into the cage. A vast force burst out. The blood river surged, and the power of hundreds of blood pythons gathered in the blood river. Even if a small mountain was in front of it, it would be swept into the blood river and devoured in an instant. However, there was a formless power of the void that sealed the surroundings of the cage. It cannot be penetrated. Although the blood river caused the cage to tremble, it could not shake its foundation. It is said that there is a supreme technique in the Taishu Palace called the Taishu Heavenly Fate Book. A word can be the law of the world. A stroke can take the Heavenly Fate Book. It cultivates the power of destiny. However, wasn't it confirmed that no one could cultivate this technique? How do you know it? Medusa saw that Tai Xian had only written one sentence on the Great Void Treasure Mirror. Immediately, it was as if the words were spoken by a person. It was as if the words were spoken by a person with a mouth of gold and jade. His words and the things he wrote on the mirror were the laws of destiny. The laws of heaven and earth naturally operated and displayed its power. Her expression changed greatly. She had only heard of it once from her mother. It was a mysterious and unfathomable divine ability cultivation method. Legend had it that this cultivation method was a supreme cultivation method created by the peerless expert of ancient times, Fate. But after Fate, no one else was able to cultivate it. Often, those who try to forcefully cultivate it would be killed by the backlash from the power of Fate. However, Tai Xian was able to display such great power. It was obvious that he had cultivated it and mastered it. Miss Medusa, it's not too late to agree. We can't hurt each other. Otherwise, if I hurt you, I can only apologize. Tai Xian looked at the space cage in front of him. It was hard to tell if he was happy or sad. It was as if he had no emotions at all. It was as if nothing could stay in his heart. Medusa's face was as cold as ice. She snorted and said, "Do you think you can make me yield with this?" She stomped her foot heavily. In an instant, blood waves surged. A blood river quickly condensed and turned into a huge blood python that was hundreds of feet long. On the head of the blood python, there was a blood-red horn that was in the shape of a spiral. It was shining with countless bloodlight. It looked ferocious and terrifying. Its two huge eyes stared at the spatial cage outside of it. A terrifying roar crazily erupted from the mouth of the giant blood python. The countless scales on its body flickered with a dense, blood-red divine light. A ferocious light shone from its eyes, making it appear wild and irritable. Its tail, which was as large as a small mountain, suddenly rose high into the air. When it did so, a frightening energy swiftly gathered on the tail. The space around the tail was twisting strangely. Hundreds of blood pythons merged into one. That was an earth-shattering power. In the first level of Tong Tian Tower, the Blood Python clan was a clan that could compete with the king of savage beasts. When the blood pythons merged, even the king of savage beasts would have to retreat. Rumble. The crimson python's tail violently whipped the spatial cage with boundless power. Suddenly, it was as if there were tons of explosives exploding at the same time at the place where they collided. The destructive power suddenly burst out, and the solid space cage shook violently. Then, under the terrifying whipping of the blood python, countless cracks appeared on the crystal pillars like a spider web. They spread rapidly in all directions. In the blink of an eye, they turned into countless spatial powers and collapsed completely. The spatial cage collapsed on the spot. Medusa snorted in her heart as she broke the cage. Suddenly, a gorgeous color appeared in her eyes. In an instant, she saw that the entire space in the place she was looking at had strangely frozen. The seawater below suddenly stopped flowing. A layer of terrifying grayish-white color appeared, and it was imprisoned into piles of rocks. Even the seawater was petrified. In the midst of the petrification, one could see the ripples surging inside. This grayish-white color rushed toward Tai Xian and the group of Great Void Palace disciples behind him at a speed visible to the naked eye. The space seemed to be completely frozen in this eye. The Great Void Palace, the mandate of heaven. Edict, remove the petrification, all things return to their original state. Tai Xian was not in a hurry. Even the disciples behind him were very confident in him. They did not panic at all and just stood behind him calmly. Sure enough, Tai Xian wrote another sentence on the great void treasure mirror. Instantly, the petrified sea started to ripple again. The grayish-white area that was petrified quickly retreated at a speed visible to the naked eye. The sea that was petrified into a continent was unbelievably restored to sea water again, and it kept rolling and surging. Just as the mysterious power that was emitted from Medusa's eyes was about to land on Tai Xian's body, a strange power suddenly appeared in the world. A layer of ripples appeared in the empty space and swiftly swept past. The power of petrification instantly disappeared without a trace. In the invisible collision, the power of petrification was strangely dissipated. Medusa's face turned slightly pale. Her body trembled slightly and became very ugly. She was in disbelief. The power of destiny? It's so terrifying. Even my innate ability can be nullified. The Great Void Palace, the mandate of heaven. Edict. Congeal the water as a rope. Bind the blood python. Tai Xian did not stop because of this. Immediately, the iron pen in his hand continued to write on the treasure mirror. As the words fell, splash! In the sea, the surface of the sea began to spin without warning, forming deep whirlpools. In the whirlpools, countless seawater condensed into water-blue chains. With a splash, they rushed out of the sea. There were dozens of them, and they were extremely slender. When they rushed out of the sea, they were extremely agile, as if they were real. They quickly bound the huge blood python that Medusa was standing on. They were as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, in the blue light, those chains had already bound the blood python tightly. The other end of the chains was in the sea. The chains straightened and bound, and they were about to pull the blood python into the sea. Roar! However, the blood python's strength was shocking. The power of destiny was indeed terrifying. It could almost turn everything in the world into its own. It was like a golden mouth and jade words like a spell. It was extremely terrifying. However, it could only bind experts who were one realm higher than Tai Xian. If it was higher than that, it would not be able to have absolute control. It would still be broken. When the blood python fused into one, its strength was too terrifying. Even the savage beast kings did not dare to block it. Seeing that it was bound by some chains, the blood python's eyes suddenly emitted a violent and fierce light. Its body danced wildly. Countless blood-red light shot out from the blood python's body. The terrifying power caused those chains to shake violently. Loud clattering sounds. The aqua-blue light on the chains flashed violently. As the blood python struggled, it let out a terrifying sound, as if it was going to break at any time. At the same time, Medusa made her move again. An intense battle broke out in the sky above the sea. The terrifying shock waves from the collision spread out in all directions like a tidal wave. Thousands of huge waves were stirred up. The terrifying aura was sensed by the savage beasts in the nearby sea. They all revealed expressions of fear and fled into the distance with all their might. They were afraid of being affected. In the vicinity of the battle, on an island with dense forest, there was a towering ancient tree. Suddenly, a tree door was pushed open at the bottom of the ancient tree. Pata! It was a tree hole. It was like a tree house. It would not be a problem for a family of 3 to live in. Inside, a young man in a black robe walked out. He stood upright on the spot, as if he was the ruler of this world. His face was not handsome, but it was as if it was carved by a knife. His black hair was casually tied behind his head with a hairband. On his shoulder, there was a strange bird that seemed to be part of his body. It stood on his shoulder with its eyes closed, not moving at all. A pair of deep black eyes lifted slightly and looked into the distance. In his eyes, he saw the void distorting, the power of heaven and earth trembling violently, and the roaring of the sea. Terrifying, thunderous roars filled the sky. I did not expect to encounter such a powerful battle the moment I came out of seclusion. That's not right. The black-robed man who walked out of the tree hole was naturally D. Shirtion. In the tower, due to the opening of the 3rd level of heaven, The world in the tower had increased by more than half in the year outside. He had stayed in there for almost 100 years before coming out. The benefits he had gained from his seclusion in these years were almost immeasurable. First, he had refined the 7 orifices exquisite pot, which allowed him to start refining divine crystals. Then, he had broken through to the 3rd transformation realm of the Yaodan. After all these years, he had accumulated an enormous amount of Emperor's true power in his body. The 4th grade Black Lotus was almost filled with true power. He had peaked into the late stage of the 3rd transformation realm of the Yaodan. He was only a little bit away from the peak of the 3rd transformation realm. Wearing the Emperor's mask, he would be the ancient demon king. His combat strength was as strong as the late stage of the tribulation realm in the immortal cultivation realm. If he fought with all his might, even immortal realm strong men would have to avoid him. One could imagine how great his gains were at this moment. However, the greatest gain was the loyalty of the millions of demons in the secret realm. In these years in the tower, he would go down from time to time to guide Hu and the others in their cultivation. He had used various methods and unknowingly increased the loyalty of the demons in the secret realm to him, the king of demons. Especially after he displayed a few shocking divine powers, most of the demon clans looked at him with respect and passion. Then there was the little guy on his shoulder. After this little guy had swallowed more than 100 seeds of life, he had fallen into an inexplicable deep sleep. However, he had always stayed on Sakura's shoulder. It was undergoing a metamorphosis. When the transformation was complete, it would definitely amaze the world. There are 2 auras in the battle. One of them is very familiar. Tion keenly felt that the aura in the battle was very familiar to him. His mind turned, and a cold divine light suddenly shot out from his eyes. It's Medusa. Who is she fighting with? Oomph. Since when did others have the right to bully my southern barbarian people? A light flashed on his face, and a purple-gold mask instantly appeared, covering half of his face. As soon as the mask appeared, Tian's majestic aura became even more intense. In a radius of 100 feet around him, there was an invisible pressure that filled the air. It was as if the surrounding space was going to be completely solidified. In this area, it was as if he was the master of this world. With a raise of his hand, he could control the fate of this void. Domain. The moment he put on the Emperor's mask, there were signs that he was about to condense a domain on his body. A domain was control. He controlled a unique area that belonged to him. His face was covered, and the expression under the mask could not be seen. However, from his eyes, one could see the coldness that seemed to freeze the world. When he felt that it was Medusa who was fighting with others, an inexplicable anger rose in his mind. Although Medusa had not explicitly said that she would enter the Myriad Demon Valley, she was still a member of the Southern Barbarian. Someone attacking her outside was undoubtedly a slap to the Southern Barbarian's face. Whoosh! With a wave of his long sleeve, a wave of air rolled up outside his body. His body rose out of thin air and stepped on the void. He did not even gather the demon wind. Just like that, he rose into the air with his demon body. A layer of golden divine light appeared on his body, and he quickly broke through the air in the direction of the battle. Limitless void, the mandate of heaven is mine. Edict, power of the 5 elements, seal the void. Cage of the 5 elements, seal. Xian's face was still as usual. There was no emotion at all. He wrote another edict in his hand. Suddenly, the power of the 5 elements in the surroundings rolled violently and quickly condensed into a cage. In an instant, it imprisoned Medusa in this cage. The power of the 5 elements was endless. It cycled endlessly in the cage, and 5-colored light surrounded the cage. It was as if even the world could be imprisoned on the spot. At this moment, Medusa was separated from the blood python. Around the blood python, the disciples of the Great Void Palace formed a nameless formation. They trapped the blood python in the formation. No matter how ferocious the blood python was, it could not break through the formation. Miss Medusa, I'm sorry for the offense. An inexplicable divine light flashed in Tai Xian's eyes. He looked at Medusa, who was already in the cage of the 5 elements, and said lightly. He stretched out his left hand and grabbed at the cage from afar. Rumble. The cage of the 5 elements shot out 5-colored divine light. As it was surrounded by the divine light, it shook violently. The cage rapidly shrank. It was actually about to grab the entire cage into his hand. "How dare you?" Medusa coldly reprimanded. With a flip of her hand, an ancient bronze mirror instantly appeared in her palm. Mysterious runes actually appeared on the ancient mirror. It was as though the ancient mirror contained endless mysteries. The moment the ancient mirror appeared, a vast and mighty force was emitted from it. Even the cage of the 5 elements showed a trace of inexplicable loosening when the ancient mirror appeared. The circulation of the 5 elements became jerky. On the other hand, Medusa's face strangely had an unusual flush to it. "How dare you?" However, just as Medusa seemed to be about to use some kind of life-saving treasure, at the same time, in the distant void, there was suddenly a roar filled with endless majesty. It was as if the heavens were rolling. In the roar, there seemed to be thousands of thunderbolts following. A vast and mighty pressure surged from the void like a tide. It was as if there was an extremely domineering and ferocious tiger pouncing on them. A pair of tiger eyes stared at them covetously. The roar of the sea suddenly became silent. It was as if, at that moment, in the world, there was no other sound except for this roar. Patter, patter. In the void, there was a sound of hurried and steady footsteps. Looking into the distance, a man in a black robe walked over step by step. It was as if there were invisible steps under his feet. As he walked in the void under his feet rippled. Every step he took was as if Mount Tai was pressing down on them. A vast and mighty aura surrounded him. It was as if he was the emperor of heaven and earth. He was wearing a mask, and his face couldn't be seen, but his cold eyes landed on Tai Xian. It's him. Medusa, who was about to use the ancient mirror in her hand, saw the man in the black robe. Although he was covered by a mask, the aura on him could not be concealed or replaced. Almost instantly, she had already recognized that the man who was emitting a vast and mighty pressure was Di Shirtian. However, she could not help but feel surprised. Shouldn't he have left the Tower of Babel with Bai Hu and the others? Why is he still in the tower? The question flashed in her mind. This mask. On the other side, Tai Xian also stopped his movements and turned to look at the man. When he saw the purple gold mask on Di Shirtian's face, his pupils contracted violently. A touch of horror appeared on his calm face for the first time. His heart was in turmoil. The terrifying scene of the purple gold masked man colliding with the blood-red altar in the tower that year appeared in his mind. Due to some things happening in my life these past 2 days, I'm in a very bad mood. My mind is in a mess, so I haven't been updating much. I apologize to everyone here. Chapter 448. It's him, Tai Xian, who had always been calm and indifferent, decisively gave up on the idea of imprisoning Medusa. Looking at his junior brothers who were entangled with the blood python, he frowned slightly and leaned towards them. However, his eyes were still fixed on Di Shirtian, who was floating in the air. With his usual state of mind, this obviously fearful action unreservedly revealed his wariness towards the newcomer. His eyes did not relax for even a moment as he stared ahead. Junior brothers, withdraw the formation. Tai Xian seemed to ponder for a moment, then said to the people behind him without any emotion. Suddenly, the few great Void Palace disciples who were entangled with the blood python did not hesitate and quickly retreated from their positions. They stepped on the auspicious clouds and gathered behind Tai Xian again. Many pairs of eyes also looked at him with slight confusion. Senior brother. One of the young men seemed to be unable to hold it in. Just as he was about to ask, he closed his mouth when Tai Xian raised his hand slightly. He stood behind respectfully and did not say anything else. It could be seen that Tai Xian definitely had inestimable prestige in the Great Void Palace. Otherwise, the scene before them would not have happened. The blood python glared at them angrily. Then, with the fastest speed, it fiercely charged towards the five elements cage that locked Medusa. Its tail glowed with bloodlight as it whipped the cage with terrifying power. Bang! Around the cage, the void collapsed. The fragments that collapsed erupted into terrifying spatial fragments, causing the area to be completely filled with chaos. This terrifying destructive power even enveloped the five elements cage. It bombarded the cage as if it wanted to completely break the cage and destroy it. However, the five elements cage was formed by the power of the five elements. In the cage, the power of the five elements was close to perfection. It constantly circulated in the state of the five elements, bursting out with five-colored divine light. No matter how powerful the chaotic power outside was, it could not break the cage and was all rejected outside the cage. It was truly terrifying. You dare to touch this king's friend? How dare you? For a moment, Indra's might could be said to be boundless. His two ice-cold eyes swept across the five elements cage. When he saw Medusa, who was in the cage, the fury in his heart turned into a monstrous wave as he roared out with this furious reprimand. It turned into rolling thunder, pressing down on Tai Xian. Even the sea beneath him seemed to move according to his mood. Tens of thousands of huge waves rolled up from the ground as if it was angered. Wave after wave rushed into the sky, letting out a series of rumbling sounds. Bang! Tai Xian's expression changed slightly. A looming river appeared around him, revolving around him. In this strange river, there seemed to be countless figures and endless lives. Above the river, there was an illusory figure that looked exactly like Tai Xian. That figure was holding a book and an iron pen, writing something on it. Every time he wrote a sentence, the river beneath him would become a little stronger. Some kind of scene inside changed accordingly. This was his domain, the River of Destiny. This River of Destiny filled the area within 100 feet radius of him. In this area, it was as if he was the master of everything. He was the master of destiny. Nothing could resist his power. However, an invisible force surged over like an avalanche, colliding with the domain. Amidst a violent rumble, the space outside the domain began to distort strangely. How dare you? When this sentence fell into Tai Xian's ears, he felt the arrogance in the words. It was as if an emperor was interrogating, and condemning. In his eyes, ripples suddenly rolled up in his calm heart lake. Even his face was twitching involuntarily. It could be seen that no state of mind could withstand the impact of those words on him. Think about his identity. He was a direct disciple of the four great holy lands. He had the divine body of destiny, which was rarely seen in 10,000 years. He could cultivate the supreme cultivation technique of the Great Void Hall. From birth until now, no one dared to scold him. Now, Deshirtian's reprimand was like an emperor. In his heart, it was simply a naked provocation. His chi and blood were surging. He didn't suffer any injuries when fighting with Medusa, but Deshirtian's words almost made him vomit blood. Who are you? Tai Xian's words carried a touch of coldness. He stared at Deshirtian, who was walking over step by step. You want to stop this king with a mere cage? Deshirtian didn't care about Tai Xian at all. Instead, he looked at the five elements cage. It was undeniable that the five elements cage was extremely tough and terrifying. Being trapped inside, the five elements cycle would make it almost invulnerable unless it was forcefully broken by a powerful force. Trampling the 8 desolates. Bang! Sakura's first step in the void caused countless ripples to swirl up in the void under his feet, presenting a terrifying distortion. The vast and mighty power caused the void under his feet to sink down like the earth, sinking downwards. His aura and majesty suddenly doubled in one step. Boom! With the second step, he directly crossed a distance of hundreds of feet. The void under his feet collapsed and was instantly annihilated. A vast power poured out, causing the void to be annihilated. When it was annihilated, it quickly spread to the surroundings. Within this range, everything collapsed and turned into dust, and the aura that gushed out from Tion's body rose once again, increasing by 3 times. Under the invisible aura, his black robe fluttered without wind, making him look extremely tall. He was like an emperor who truly controlled the fate of thousands of lives, and also like a demon god with boundless power. It made people feel suffocated just by looking at him. Another step. With the 3rd step forward, this time, it crossed the boundary of heaven and earth and directly stepped on the 5 elements cage. Rumble. Immediately, the void under his feet collapsed and was annihilated inch by inch. Countless elements of earth, fire, water, and wind appeared in the collapsed void. When they collided, it was as if they were splitting heaven and earth apart, erupting with a terrifying destructive power. It poured down on the 5 elements cage. The 5 elements divine light formed by the power of the 5 elements burst out of the 5 elements cage. It wanted to resist this incredible power. However, this step was simply capable of obliterating the heavens and the earth. The terrifying force it erupted with caused even space to collapse violently, and even the countless waves on the ocean below were instantly flattened without the slightest ripple. Crack! With this step, Sakura's aura increased by 6 times. With his strength, he would be an ancient demon king if he wore the ultimate emperor mask. If the strength of an ancient demon king were to increase by 6 times, how terrifying would that be? At this moment, it poured out from under his feet. Although the 5 elements cage was tough and strong, it could only resist for a moment under such a strong force. Then, it was completely destroyed by the bombardment. The entire cage was annihilated inch by inch. It collapsed into dust, trampling the 8 wastelands. Tion had chosen a set of combat skills from the tens of thousands of ancient scrolls. It was a set of footwork. There were only 8 steps, but with each step his aura and even his strength would increase by several times. Stacking on top of each other, each additional step had a vast power that was several times greater than the previous one. When all 8 steps were taken, it was said that a small kiliocosm would collapse under his feet, completely annihilated. Turning into nothingness was extremely terrifying. The ancient scrolls also mentioned that this set of combat skills was not created by a demon elite. In ancient times, it was created by a sorcerer god from the sorcerer god clan, one of the 100 clans that coexisted with the demon race on the purple gold mainland. Its power was so strong that it could destroy heaven and earth. However, although this set of combat skills was powerful, the requirements to cultivate it were even more terrifying. Otherwise, one would need a strong physical body and an extremely high cultivation level. If Tion did not wear the ultimate emperor mask, he would only be able to take the first 2 steps at most. After wearing it, he would only be able to take the 3rd step. If he took the 4th step, his demon body would not be able to withstand the sudden explosion of power in his body, and he would be blown into countless pieces by that power. This was something that only an ancient demon cultivator like Tion could withstand. If he was an immortal cultivator, he would not even be able to take the 1st step, unless he was a martial cultivator who cultivated his body. Didn't you leave with Sister Tian Xiang? Why did you suddenly come back? The 5-element cage collapsed, and Medusa naturally escaped. When she saw the masked Sakura, she involuntarily inquired somewhat uncertainly. Although she did not say any words of gratitude, the expression that was revealed in her eyes was already sufficient to express the feelings in her heart. Sometimes gratitude did not need to be expressed. We'll talk about this later. But Tion turned around, looked at Tai Xian, and snorted coldly. For Holy Lands, you're really impressive. You actually dare to attack us demons. Could it be you really think that there's no one in the demon race? With a furious rebuke, he seemed to have turned into a fierce tiger and pounced toward Tai Xian. Clang! A sharp sound pierced through the clouds, and the tiger's soul on his back was unsheathed, bringing with it a golden saber light, as if a golden sun had risen behind him. Pata! His right hand instantly landed on the slender hilt of the tiger's soul. Slash! Dishurtian stood a few hundred feet away from Tai Xian, holding the tiger's soul in his hand without hesitation. After stepping out of the trampling 8 desolation, the vast power in his body instantly poured into the tiger's soul. With a sizzling sound, 1,000-foot-long saber light soared into the sky, condensing into a solid tiger soul saber. The dazzling saber light slashed straight at Tai Xian. Wherever the saber light passed, the world was split in half. A terrifying saber mark appeared, as if it was going to split the sky and the earth apart. It was going to cut the entire void in half. Countless saber chi was completely restrained, and all of it was contained in the saber light, not revealing a single bit. But in the saber, there was a shocking sharpness. No matter how powerful the giant peak was, it would undoubtedly be split into 2 halves by this saber. Although there was no saber chi, its threat had increased, and it became even more terrifying. Seeing that shocking saber mark, Tai Xian's pupils contracted violently. His hand quickly scribbled on the treasure mirror. Infinite void, the mandate of heaven, imperial decree. Condense water into ice. Condense ice in a mountain. 5 elements return to 1. Infinite void, the mandate of heaven, imperial decree. Solidify the void. Infinite void, the mandate of heaven, imperial decree. Scatter saber light. Infinite void, the mandate of heaven, imperial decree. 9 dragons protect. Almost in an instant, Tai Xian wrote one edict after another at an unprecedented speed. In his body, the destiny power he cultivated poured into the iron pen like a tide, turning into edicts on the treasure mirror. Because of the different contents of the edicts, the destiny power consumed was also different. It was a world of difference compared to when he was fighting Medusa. Every edict he wrote here had a huge amount of destiny power drawn from his body, turning into edicts. These 4 edicts instantly consumed more than half of the destiny energy in his body, and their power was also very shocking. Rumble. Under the blade light of Sakura, the void suddenly became abnormally tough, as if it had turned into a substance in an instant and completely solidified. It was incomparably jerky when it struck on the void. Compared to before, there was a strong backlash force that was constantly transmitted from the blade to Sakura's body. However, Tiger Soul had already transformed into a mid-grade demon weapon, and its sharpness was almost unstoppable. Solidify the space around it could only slightly hinder Tiger's Soul. Still, it was cleaved apart by the incomparably sharp saber light. After Tiger's Soul passed, the terrifying saber mark still remained in the void. From the ocean below, a monstrous wave suddenly surged up. Moreover, it rapidly condensed into ice in midair, becoming a huge ice mountain. The power of the 5 elements in the surroundings surged into the ice mountain like a tide, dyeing the ice mountain with 5 colors. It became incomparably firm and blocked in front of Tiger Soul. Then, with a monstrous power, it smashed towards Tiger Soul's blade glint with a loud bang. It was actually going to fight Tiger Soul head-on. At the same time, Dishurtian could clearly feel that there was an additional strange power on Tiger's Soul, causing the saber chi that was originally restrained to leak out and disperse. It caused the golden saber light to become slightly dimmer. Its power was reduced by 30% in an instant. Roar! 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 Then, dragon roars pierced the 9 heavens from the sea. With a splash, 9 blue divine dragons that were thousands of feet long each rushed out from the sea, roaring. Pairs of dragon eyes scanned the surroundings, and they quickly appeared around Tai Xian, flying and circling around him to protect his body. Regardless of whether it was the dragon scales or dragon claws, they were all lifelike, as if they were real. The dragon might emitted from their bodies was boundless and unparalleled. Break! Dishurtian's expression was indifferent. He reached out with his left hand and grabbed Tiger Soul. His wrist sank, and an even stronger saber force tore through the void, breaking through the sealed space, and slashed the strange ice mountain. Rumble, Tiger Soul, and the ice mountain clashed head-on. The ice mountain was condensed with the power of the 5 elements, and it was many times stronger than a mountain made of diamond. When it collided, even the void would be destroyed inch by inch. Since it couldn't withstand it, it would attack at the peak of tribulation transcendence. However, the Tiger Soul fused with the vast power of stepping on all directions and the sharpness of Tiger Soul. If God blocked it, it would kill God. If Buddha blocked it, it would kill Buddha. The dazzling golden saber light brought out an incomparably beautiful saber mark. The sharp saber slashed open the ice mountain. After it was slashed open, the golden saber light on the Tiger Soul dimmed a little. Clearly, it had consumed a lot of energy. Beside Tai Xian, 9 dragons circled and charged at Tiger Soul without dodging. Each of these 9 divine dragons had astonishing power that was not inferior to tribulation transcendence. They met Tiger Soul one after another, either using their dragon claws or dragon tails, and roaring as they fought with Tiger Soul. It caused the surrounding void to distort and collapse. However, under Tai Xian's continuous attacks, even 6 of the divine dragons were destroyed. When there were only 3 left, Tiger Soul's saber light also collapsed. The vast power contained in the saber had been completely depleted. Ding ding ding. Just as Di Shirtian was about to attack again, suddenly, a crisp and pleasant bell sound pierced through the air from the east and entered his ears. When it landed in his mind, he felt a kind of erotic scene suddenly appear in his mind. All kinds of desires unconsciously surged into his mind and entangled his mind. Oof. Demonic sound, it's ding-dang. This little bit of desire did not stay in his mind for even a moment. In an instant, the 4th grade Black Lotus in the demon residence burst out with a pitch-black divine light and emitted a tyrannical, devouring power. It instantly swallowed the desires that had just been born into the Black Lotus and refined them into the true power of the Emperor. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the bell sound from the east. A burst of elf-like laughter came from the air. A young girl wearing an orange robe walked over with a smile. She had a pair of flawless, jade-like feet that were as flawless as crystals. She was giggling. There were strange bells on her feet and hands. Who else could it be but the witch Ding Dang? Senior Brother Tai Xian, I heard that you personally went to invite the Snake Queen's daughter. It seems that you haven't succeeded yet. As she spoke, she walked. The space under her feet seemed to shrink. In the blink of an eye, she was in front of him. When she saw the masked Di Shirtian, her eyes could not help but brighten. She blinked and revealed a surprised smile. Her peerless temperament was wantonly released. So it's Big Brother D. Didn't you leave last time? Could it be that you came back to find me? I knew it. How can I, Ding Dang, be inferior to that woman? A sly look flashed in the corner of her eyes. Di Shirtian frowned slightly, but did not answer. He just looked coldly at Tai Xian. Lunatic D, leave quickly. Take that beautiful snake and leave this place quickly. It's dangerous. I feel that in the distance, there are several extremely powerful auras rapidly approaching you. A few of them are extremely fierce. They should be your old rival, the Sky Sword Valley. Every one of them has the strength to pass the tribulation. That's dangerous. It'll be difficult to break out of the encirclement. Moreover, I feel that Tai Xian has a precious treasure on him. It should be left behind by the ancient god of fate. I just don't know if it's the scales of fate or the divine book of fate. Quick, quick, quick. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 449. Ming shouted anxiously. Experts were rushing over from all directions. There were more than 100 experts who had crossed the heavenly tribulation. If all these experts were to surround them, it would be extremely difficult for them to escape. It would be very difficult for them to escape. What really shocked him was that he sensed a mysterious and terrifying qi from Tai Xian. It was definitely a terrifying treasure, and it was connected to fate. The god of fate had several supreme treasures that were related to fate. One of them was the scale of fate, and the other was the divine book of fate. Each of them was extremely terrifying, especially the divine book of fate. It was said that in ancient times, the god of fate only needed to write a stroke on it to destroy a small kiliacosm. He could control the fate of thousands of lives in his hands. If he really had such a great treasure in his hands, then it would be truly dangerous. Tion felt a chill in his heart when he heard Dark's roar in his mind. He glanced at Medusa from the corner of his eye. He had just come out of seclusion. The four great holy lands had no reason to know his whereabouts. These experts would not appear out of nowhere. The biggest possibility was that they were here for Medusa. What kind of shocking identity does she have? She actually attracted the four great holy lands to surround her. Doubts were doubts, but even Dark could feel the extreme danger. So Sakura didn't insist on staying here and waiting for others to close their pockets and watch a good show of catching a turtle in a jar. Ding dang, you want to stop me too? Sakura looked at the fairy-like, which ding dang. Looking at her seemingly innocent and romantic aura, he wouldn't relax his vigilance against her, especially the two strings of bells on her wrist. The four bells on the left were purple gold in color, and the three bells on the right were dark black in color. This time, there were two more strings of crystal bells on her jade-like feet. They were different from the rest. Hee. Ding Dang smiled slyly. She glanced at Medusa behind Tion and said, "Big brother Tion, Ding Dang can only let you down this time. Medusa is a guest that my master said he wanted to invite back. Why don't Big brother Tion come with us? When the time comes, Ding Dang will accompany you personally." Her eyes flickered and her snow-white teeth gently bit her lower lip. She charmingly said, "You can do whatever you want." Her voice was so charming that even a monk who had cultivated for thousands of years would be moved. His imagination ran wild. "Medusa, follow me." Seeing this, Tion knew that there was no need to say anything more. Once he broke through, he would be the king of demons. Who would be able to resist him? A heroic spirit rose in his heart. "Who dares to stop me?" Tion roared. He pointed the tiger soul in his hand at the sea. On the saber, golden saber light rippled like autumn water. The fishbone-like saber patterns in the saber seemed to come alive in an instant. Waves of Huangji true force gushed out like a tide and circulated throughout his body. He asked Dark in his mind, which side has the fewest people? The south side where Tai Xian and that little demoness are. Quick, break out of the encirclement. Not only are there tribulation transcendents, but there are also old monsters who have stepped into the immortal realm and are about to become immortals. Dark kept roaring. His anxiety was revealed without reservation. If he was really surrounded, he would be in big trouble today. Clang! Raising the tiger spirit, his body exuded a threatening aura. A vast aura whizzed towards Tai Xian's location. His eyes were filled with sharp killing intent, trampling the 8 wastelands. This time, Tion did not want to save Medusa. Instead, he took a step toward Tai Xian. With one step, the void distorted, and his aura instantly rose. With another step, the space shattered and was annihilated inch by inch. The void under his feet was like a mirror, and countless terrifying spiderweb-like cracks appeared. It quickly spread in all directions. With 3 steps, earth, water, fire, and wind appeared under his feet. Vast power once again filled every inch of his flesh and blood. Under his clothes, his perfect muscles undulated rapidly like dragons. Waves of surging true force poured into the tiger's soul. Waves of overbearing tiger roars came from the tiger's soul. After 3 steps, he was only a few feet away from Tai Xian. The tiger's soul in his hand was constantly emitting saber light, and the surrounding space was distorted inch by inch. 1 slash could break the sky. "I'll kill you with 1 slash." Tion's eyes were filled with endless indifference. He secretly said that in his heart. The tiger's soul slashed toward Tai Xian's head. Under the tiger's soul saber, The vast power froze everything in the void. Under the tiger soul, no one could dodge. Under the tiger soul, no matter how powerful one was, they would be injured by the tiger's soul. Faith. Faith that pressed forward courageously. The moment Di Shurtian unsheathed his saber, there was only Tai Xian in his eyes. In his eyes, there was a firm faith. He firmly believed that this slash could shatter the void, cut the sea, and kill everything it wanted to split. This faith was irresistible. With his third transformation demon elixir and the ultimate emperor mask, he was an ancient demon king, comparable to the tribulation realm in the immortal cultivation world. In the same realm, the demon clan was always stronger than the immortal cultivators. With the 8 desolation steps and the 3rd step, the power in his body increased explosively. Even immortal realm experts couldn't block his attack. Danger. Extreme danger. In Tai Xian's calm heart, there were waves of shock. In this slash, all the power was concentrated in the tiger soul itself. This extreme concentration made this slash even more terrifying than the previous slash. This slash could really break the sun, moon, and sky. Death. He touched the aura of death. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. Tai Xian roared in his heart. There was a kind of madness in his heart. It was as if he had made a decision in an instant. At the same time, an ancient aura that could suffocate everything in the world suddenly emerged from his body. A light flashed in his hand, and a purple gold scale appeared in his hand. There was a tray on both sides of this scale. Beside it, there were chips that looked like gold coins. At this moment, both sides of the scale were the same height. It was balanced and fair. Swoosh! Suddenly, a purple gold divine light shot out from the scale and spread in all directions. It swept past Di Shurtian and Tai Xian. Then, an invisible force fell on the scale. Suddenly, a miraculous change occurred. On both sides of the scale, on each tray, there was an illusory figure. On the left was Tai Xian, and on the right was Di Shurtian. When the two figures appeared, the scale began to tilt. It tilted to the right, and the tilt was still increasing. This was the result of Tian Chung weighing the strength of the two of them, showing who won and who lost. The scale was tilting to Di Shurtian's position. Without a doubt, it meant that Di Shurtian had the battle prowess to suppress Tai Xian. Cultivation weakening. Tai Xian quickly picked up a purple gold chip. On the chip, the ancient seal of cultivation weakening appeared. He threw this chip into the tray, representing Di Shurtian. My cultivation has been weakened by 50%. In an instant, Di Shurtian only felt that an unpredictable force was exerted on him. The surging power in his body suddenly flowed away like a tide and disappeared without a trace. The destiny scale, it's really the destiny scale. Nether almost went crazy in the infernal prison. His 2 dragon eyes were wide open, and the horror in his eyes surged like a tide. There was a touch of horror in his eyes. Only those in the ancient times knew what kind of terrible existence the god of destiny was. Even the emperor of the underworld didn't have such amazing divine power. Puff! Although Tai Xian had put a chip on Di Shurtian's side, he seemed to have suffered a great backlash and paid a considerable price. A mouthful of blood rushed up his throat and spurted out. However, the destiny scale in front of him, which had been tilting to Di Shurtian, began to rise rapidly. Although it was still tilted, the degree was not as exaggerated as before. Speed is slowing down. Tai Xian picked up another chip and put it into Di Shurtian's tray. Suddenly, the blade that was about to strike down quickly slowed down. Even his movements began to slow down. It was very strange. The scale rose to the same position in an instant and began to balance. 1,000 times gravity. Another chip fell into the tray. Between heaven and earth, there was suddenly a terrifying gravitational force exerted on Sakura's body. The scale began to tilt to Tai Xian's side. At the same time, the remaining 3 divine dragons beside Tai Xian let out dragon roars and waved their dragon claws, pouncing toward Sakura. They spat out mouthfuls of dragon breath, which transformed into a lump of icy cold mist that rushed towards him. Destiny scale? Humph! My destiny is controlled by me. Just a mere scale. If you want to ride on my head, then I will break you and trample you. Dishurtian's eyes shot out a threatening cold light. The strange power of the scale reduced his strength again and again. He couldn't help but feel a sense of madness in his heart. He walked the path of the Emperor. How could his destiny be controlled by others? Who dared to control his destiny and break it? The sharp reduction of true power in his body eased his body, which was originally a little strenuous to bear this power. A trace of madness flashed in his eyes. After taking the third step, he raised his left foot again. 8 desolation, step, 4th step. Rumble. You've reduced my strength, slowed my speed, and exerted gravity on my body. Don't be afraid. I'll stomp you to death. Dishurtian wore a mask on his face. The mask was cold, and the face under the mask was filled with coldness. Dishurtian stepped out with his left foot, crossing the boundary of heaven and earth with one step. There was a violent force that broke out from Dishurtian's body. This foot was aimed at Tai Xian's face. It's a new week, brothers. Let's do our best. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chijian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 450. Tai Xian's expression changed slightly. Since Dishurtian took the 4th step, the scale of destiny instantly began to tilt again. The 3 water-blue divine dragons charged towards Dishurtian fearlessly. They spat out dragon breaths and sharp dragon claws, charging towards him at the same time. However, all of these were instantly dispersed by Dishurtian's left foot. He stepped on the divine dragons, and the entire divine dragons, starting from their heads, began to be annihilated inch by inch. They instantly turned into countless water droplets and collapsed. Tai Xian did not have the powerful strength to summon the true dragons. These divine dragons were just condensed from the seawater. There was probably some divine dragon power in their bodies. Their strength was only at the tribulation transcendence stage. However, under this step, the 3 divine dragons were annihilated one after another. The void under his feet collapsed with a loud bang. A pitch-black hurricane mysteriously appeared under his feet. This hurricane blew past, shattering the surrounding void inch by inch, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. It caused the heavens and earth to turn dark. The 4th step allowed the wind power of the earth, fire, water, and wind to completely erupt. This wind was the wind of destruction. It was full of destructive power. Wherever it blew, everything would be annihilated. And this step was aimed at Tai Xian's face. Although in an instant, the scale of destiny appeared above his head to block his foot in the face of danger. The burst of terrifying power caused the void around Tai Xian to completely collapse. A huge crack appeared in the heavens and earth. This crack wrapped around Tai Xian. Suddenly, a tyrannical suction force swept him in, disappearing into the chaotic space-time fragments. He was mysteriously swept away. He disappeared. Bang! On the sea below, a terrifying footprint that was 100 feet long suddenly appeared. Within the footprint, the seawater instantly turned into nothingness. The surrounding seawater could not enter here. A terrifying footprint without seawater appeared in the sea. One could directly see the bottom of the sea. The bottom of the sea was dry. It did not disappear for a long time. This footprint seemed to be filled with a domineering power. It was actually preserved in the vast sea, and no seawater could get close to it. It became a vacuum. Go! Dishurtian looked meaningfully at Witch Ding Dang, who was watching with great interest but did not intervene to stop them. However, he did not linger for long as he cried out softly to Medusa behind him before swiftly breaking through the air toward the south. At the same time, he did not let down his guard at all. After traveling several thousand feet away, Dishurtian flipped his wrist, and 2 white jade gourds appeared in his hands. He held one for himself and threw the other into Medusa's hand. He said, "Drink the wine inside." As he spoke, he first opened the gourd, picked it up, and poured a mouthful into his mouth. As soon as the wine entered his throat and into his stomach, there was a magical power that was rapidly emitted from the wine. In a blink of an eye, it had spread to all parts of his body. In a split second, a magical scene appeared. Sakra's body, in an instant, mysteriously disappeared from the sky above the sea. Medusa did not suspect Chertion. She also drank a mouthful of wine from the gourd. Her entire body also mysteriously disappeared into the void. At the same time, she saw Chertion, who had already turned into nothingness. Invisibility. He directly disappeared into the void. His entire body turned into nothingness. It was many times more advanced than the invisibility technique. This invisibility was truly the most thorough. Even if someone was a few levels stronger than them, they would not be able to find them with their divine thoughts. What wine is this? A look of disbelief flashed across Medusa's eyes. She asked Chertion in amazement. At this moment, she had personally experienced the magic of this wine. The curiosity in her heart surged like stormy waves. As far as she knew, there seemed to be no spiritual wine in this world that could make people invisible. This wine was even more magical and amazing than invisibility. It was a life-saving treasure. As long as the void where they hid was not broken, they did not need to be afraid of being found. This is the illusory spirit concealing wine that I brewed. Drinking a mouthful can make you disappear into the void for an hour. Even divine thoughts won't be able to find us. Chertion said indifferently, "One gourd can be drunk dozens of times. Keep that gourd for yourself. It may be useful in the future." It was more than useful. It was simply a treasure that could not be bought with money. No matter where it was a treasure that would be desperately fought over. If it had been sold at the Linglong auction, it would have been sold at a sky-high price of tens of millions. Medusa's eyes couldn't help but flash with a trace of strangeness as she looked at Indra. With regard to Sakra, she had always taken note of his monstrous growth rate. Back then, he was just a demon that wasn't even a demon beast. In the blink of an eye, he had already reached such a shocking height. More than a dozen years, in just a dozen years, he had continuously broken through, crossing countless obstacles, and promoted to a powerful existence that was comparable to an ancient demon king. This was just a short period of time for someone else to go into seclusion. Of course, this was only in the eyes of outsiders. The existence of the Linglong Treasure Pagoda could be counted on one hand. In her opinion, Chertion's body seemed to be filled with mysteries and legends. Every single time, there would always be something shocking being revealed from him, just like this illusory spirit vanishing wine. Whoosh! His body was hidden in the void, but Sakra wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he observed from afar. Sure enough, from all directions, there were figures that were as fast as lightning flying over from various positions. Even in their direction, there were quite a number of experts using various means to break through the void. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived above the sea where the battle had taken place. Crack! Suddenly, a huge crack appeared in the void. The crack exuded a terrifying power of space. After the crack appeared, a figure quickly rushed out from the crack. It was Xian. However, although Xian broke out of the void crack, he didn't feel good either. His neat clothes became ragged in the broken streams, and there were countless hideous scars on his body. Even his hair was disheveled, and he was in a sorry state. In his eyes, which usually did not place anyone in his eyes and did not have any emotions, a trace of coldness appeared. Although it was only a flash, it was clear that his heart was not calm. Xian, why are you in such a sorry state? A middle-aged man, wearing the same attire as Xian and the others, could not help but be shocked when he saw the miserable appearance of Medusa coming out from the void. He hurriedly asked, "Could it be that Medusa actually has a great strength that you can't suppress?" There was a tone of disbelief in his voice. No, Xian's eyes were unusually deep. He glanced at Ding Dang inexplicably and regained his usual calmness. He said calmly, "It's the Demon Clan expert who controlled the blood, controlling altar, and fought with that peerless expert. He even killed an elder of the Sky Sword Valley." At the end of his words, he seemed to be coming from the west, intentionally or unintentionally. There was obviously an expert with sword intent on his body. "It's the Demon Clan expert who killed my big brother." When one of the middle-aged cultivators with a cold face heard that, a shocking sword intent burst out from his body. There was a terrifying chill in the sword intent. Although it only appeared and was immediately retracted back into his body, the sea under his feet, within a radius of 3,000 miles, was instantly frozen, forming a thick layer of ice. The cold, killing intent almost froze the entire world in an instant. Waves of tyrannical divine thought frantically swept out in all directions. Humph! Suddenly, a cold snort broke through the void, accompanied by a terrifying divine thought that shook the world. The world suddenly became terrifyingly gloomy. There was a strange distortion in the sky, and the surrounding light seemed to be swallowed in an instant. It became extremely gloomy. The world changed color. It was as if a storm was coming. The roaring sea was tamed and motionless. The vast pressure instantly swept across the entire first-level world of Tong Tian Tower. Hundreds of millions of savage beasts were pressed to the ground at the same time. Those cultivators who released their divine thoughts out of their bodies trembled violently, as if they were struck by lightning. They all spat out mouthfuls of blood, and their faces turned pale. When they raised their eyes and looked at the void, it was replaced by boundless fear. Just a cold snort was enough to severely injure hundreds of cultivators. It seemed that the owner of this cold snort was just a warning. The vast pressure receded in the blink of an eye like the tide. The world returned to normal. "Let's go." Dishurkin's face changed slightly. Without hesitation, he turned and fled into the distance. The aura just now was too strong. It was even stronger than the doppelganger he encountered before. The vast power that could topple mountains and overturn seas made him feel small in that instant. Terrifying. Too terrifying. Under that aura, there was no way to resist at all. All schemes and tricks were just clowns in the face of that power. Medusa paused for a moment. When she saw Tian fleeing into the distance, she immediately followed. They flew for hundreds of thousands of miles. However, the sea was indeed vast. Even after such a long distance, they were still surrounded by a vast expanse of blue waves. Finally, they stopped on an extremely vast island that was as big as a continent. Moo! As soon as they stopped and stood in midair, a series of chaotic cow cries suddenly sounded from the island below. The cries were very loud. It seemed to be from a rather large herd of wild cows. Amidst the earth-shattering roars of the cows, there were also the cries of strange birds. The roars of both sides carried a fierce aura, as if they were engaged in some kind of fierce battle. Two groups of savage beasts are fighting? Tian heard the continuous roars and was a little surprised. He looked in that direction. The fighting sounds came from the center of the island. Over there were towering ancient trees breaking from time to time. Obviously, the battle was quite intense. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 451. The fight was extremely fierce, and the sound of fighting could be heard clearly on such a large island. In Tong Tian Tower, fighting between savage beasts was a common occurrence. They would hunt and kill each other, and the winner would survive, and the loser would become the winner's meal. It was such a cruel law of survival that made the savage beast's wild nature continue generation after generation, and the strong would come out in large numbers. Some fought alone, while others fought between entire clans. If it was a fight between tribes, it was still fine. If it was a fight between tribes, it was often for survival space, for the ownership of a certain area, and so on. But no matter what, once they fought, it would be a fight to the death, and it was often extremely tragic. Having stayed in the tower for a period of time, he had seen ordinary hunting, but this was the first time he had seen a large-scale fight between tribes. Looking at the fierce battle, even D. Shirtion couldn't help but be curious. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing as soon as we came to the island. Why don't we go and have a look? The blood essence of savage beasts is a good material for making earth-rank spirit wine. D. Shirtion looked at the center of the island. Earth-rank spirit wine. Medusa's eyes flashed with a touch of surprise. She took the white jade gourd in front of her and asked curiously, "I don't know what rank this phantom concealment wine is." Hearing D. Shirtion mention all kinds of spirit wine one after another, she remembered that the monkey wine was quite famous in the Myriad Demon Valley. She couldn't help but secretly wonder if he had obtained some kind of mysterious inheritance and obtained a large number of spirit wine brewing methods. Monkey wine, mysterious iced jade fire wine, and now the phantom concealment wine. It would be strange if she didn't suspect. D. Shirtion looked at Medusa meaningfully and said indifferently, "Earth-rank, low-rank spirit wine." Medusa's mind was solemn. Earth-rank, low-rank spirit wine had such a magical power, so an earth-rank spirit wine must have extraordinary magical effects. She did not doubt that the blood of savage beasts could be used to brew wine. The blood and flesh of savage beasts were the source of their power. Every drop of blood contained an unimaginably large amount of essence. If used to brew wine, it would definitely be an extraordinary material. In the blink of an eye, he was already close to the edge of the fierce battle. Actually, on this island, the environment was extremely beautiful. The trees were in groups, and hundreds of flowers were in full bloom. In the air, the fragrance of flowers and plants leisurely drifted in all directions. It was fresh and pleasant. It could be said to be a beautiful place. However, the intense battle in the center caused the towering ancient trees to begin to collapse one by one. Intense killing intent soared into the sky. D. Shirtion and Yi Qingyu stood in the void and looked down. Everything below was clear in their eyes. Indeed, there were two tribes that were engaged in the most intense battle. Among them, on the ground was a group of strange cows that were completely black in color and had a pair of straight and sharp horns. Their horns were suffused with a deep black light that flowed like water and emitted traces of a sinister aura. Even their skin was flickering with a metallic luster. The most eye-catching thing was the pair of eyes that grew on their bodies, and they were abnormally bright. No matter when one saw them, the first thing that attracted one's attention was always those strange eyes of the cows. Those eyes were too bright, especially when their bodies emitted dense anger, which was even more obvious. From time to time, the eyes of some of the barbarian bulls would turn blood red in an instant. After this blood-red color appeared, some of the fierce birds in the sky would stop crying and fall from the sky without any signs of life. The leader of this group of strange cows was a strange cow that emitted a bronze luster. Its body was obviously more powerful than the other strange cows. It was leading a fierce battle in front of them. "It's a barbaric cow." When Medusa saw it, she couldn't help but exclaim in a low voice. A look of surprise appeared on her face. "This is the barbaric cow of the savage beasts." D. Shirtion's eyes quickly lit up. He swept his gaze across the ground and realized that there were actually 3,000 to 4,000 barbaric cows below. Under the lead of the bronze barbaric cow, they were fighting against the densely packed, strange birds that were circling in the sky. Those strange birds were also very ferocious. They were strange bats that were 2 to 3 meters in size when they spread their wings. Under the wings of these bats, there were 3 pairs of sharp claws. Moreover, the sharp teeth in their mouths were like inverted hooks, sharp and cold. Every sharp tooth wasn't solid, but hollow with a small hole. Once they bit the enemy, the blood in the enemy's body would be quickly sucked into their bodies through the hole in their teeth. Those are vampire dragon wing bats. Medusa was like an encyclopedia of savage beasts. With just a glance, she could recognize the 2 tribes that were fighting. The surprise in her mouth couldn't be concealed. It had to be said that these 2 types of savage beasts were relatively terrifying. The most terrifying thing about the barbaric cows was that they had copper skin and iron bones. Their skin was tough, and their flesh was thick, and their bodies were very strong. The most terrifying thing about them was their eyes. Once they were angry, their eyes could turn blood red. Once they turned blood red, any enemy that they saw would immediately die. It was as if they could attack the soul. Even enemies that were 2 to 3 levels stronger than them wouldn't be able to avoid this kind of attack. From the lowest to the highest, the barbaric cows were the black iron barbaric cow, the bronze barbaric cow, the silver barbaric cow, the gold barbaric cow, the platinum barbaric cow, and the most powerful one, the purple gold barbaric cow king. It was said that the purple gold barbaric cow king was so powerful that even an unparalleled expert would have to take a detour. If they were glared at by it, even they would be severely injured. Even if they died thousands of times, they still wouldn't be able to escape the fate of death. It was simply the most unreasonable savage beast in the world. Moo! Amidst the waves of cow roars, a blood-red light flashed from time to time. In the sky, the vampire dragon-winged bats descended one after another. However, the number of bats was huge. There were at least tens of thousands of them. They circled and rushed down. The sharp claws on their wings grabbed the barbaric cows in midair and pierced the sharp teeth in their mouths. In an instant, the living barbaric cows were turned into dried corpses. All their blood was sucked dry, and they were thrown down. The battle between the two tribes was quite tragic. Ordinary core formation realm cultivators might not even be able to deal with one of them here. The eyes of the barbaric cows are so powerful. If I can capture and tame them for my own use, thousands of barbaric cows will rush out and glare at each other at the same time. No one will be able to resist them. Shirtian's eyes flickered. All kinds of thoughts quickly ran through his mind. There's also the vampire dragon wing bats. Their wings are good materials for refining weapons. They live by sucking blood. The blood essence in their bodies will definitely be purer and more powerful than other savage beasts. TSK. Madman D, you actually have designs on this group of barbaric cows? I really don't know if I should call you bold or fearless. These are savage beasts. In the eyes of savage beasts, there is only a boundless desire to kill in their bloodline. Their wild nature is stronger than any other animals. It's almost impossible to tame them, unless it's like how you tamed the Imperial Phoenix before. You used a secret technique to connect their bloodlines when they were still in the embryo. Otherwise, it's useless no matter how much effort you put in. Ming could sense Shirtian's thoughts and could not help but cry out. Clearly, he did not have a good opinion of his idea at all. If savage beasts could really be tamed, the various races would not have feared the barbarian tribe so much in ancient times. Examples of taming were extremely rare. Shirtian did not mind at all. Instead, his mind spun quickly. He did not give up and said, "Adult barbaric cows are indeed wild and difficult to tame. They will not submit to any expert other than the barbarian tribe." However, if those newborn calves have not developed their minds and their minds are still blank, the difficulty of taming them will be greatly reduced. If I can think of a secret technique to make them recognize me as their master, I might have a chance. How could he give up so easily? In a flash, he came up with a plan. Right now, the barbaric cow clan is fighting with the vampire dragon wing bats. Since they are on this island, their nest must be built nearby. Now that they have no time to care about other things, I can find the nest of the barbaric cows and steal their calves. In an instant, an idea appeared in his mind. After thinking about it for a while, he no longer hesitated. He drank a mouthful of the illusory spirit concealment wine and hid himself in the void. In this state, he did not have to worry about attracting the attention of other savage beasts. He could search everywhere as he pleased. Unleashing his full speed, he shuttled through the void like a flickering light and passing shadow. And what is he doing? Medusa naturally saw Shirtian's every move. Although she was puzzled, she did not hesitate and drank a mouthful of spirit wine as well. After drinking it, she could not help but feel a little heartache. This spirit wine was a real treasure. Every mouthful was a good chance to save her life. He did not search in the area where the fierce battle was taking place. Instead, he began to search in the area dozens of miles away. Everywhere was covered by dense forests, and it was difficult to search. However, with his speed, he had searched many areas in the blink of an eye. Moo! Suddenly, in a rather huge hill, there was a burst of immature sound of a bull's roar that reached the ears of Sakura, who had originally planned to pass by. It's here. He stopped in his tracks and scanned the surroundings with a pair of sharp eyes. Especially that hill. The hill was not high, but it was very wide. On the hill, there were many ancient trees covered with green grass. On the ground, the color of the ground was covered by thick leaves. In the belly of the hill, under the cover of a large number of weeds, the sound of cow mooing could be heard. This place was very hidden. If it were not for the cow mooing, he might have missed it directly. Relying on his body to hide in the void, Tion only paused for a moment before he rushed into the cave. He did not touch anything at all. There was not even the slightest movement of the wind. This period of time is indeed the mating season of the bulls. There are so many newborn calves. As soon as Tion entered, he ignored the terrible environment in the cave. His eyes were first attracted by the cute calves in the cave. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 452. It seemed as if the barbarian bulls were really in their mating season. After mating, they would give birth to calves. In this huge cave, there were more than 1,000 calves. Most of them were calves that had just opened their eyes. Among these calves, more than half of them had dark skin. Obviously, they were the lowest-ranked black iron bulls. However, there were two exceptions. They were light bronze in color. Their bloodline was tyrannical. It should be the bloodline left behind by the leader of the barbarian bulls. These calves were all crying piteously for food. In the cave, there were more than 100 adult barbarian bulls guarding it. Among them, there was one bronze barbarian bull that was far more powerful than the other barbarian bulls. Many pairs of eyes were vigilantly looking outside the cave. From time to time, they would turn back to look at the calves in the cave. Their eyes would reveal traces of gentleness. These calves were the root of the barbarian bull's survival. Good, good, good. This time, the heavens are on my side. Rise for me. Seeing so many calves, Tian's eyes burst with joy. With a wave of his hand, he released the Linglong treasure pagoda. He pointed at the pagoda. In an instant, the bottom of the pagoda seemed to split open a huge crack, forming a terrifying pitch-black vortex. It emitted a strong suction force. What was even more strange was that only the Linglong treasure pagoda appeared in the cave. Tian was still hiding in the void, not revealing the slightest trace. Moo! Moo! The powerful suction force emitted from the Linglong treasure pagoda swept through the entire cave in an instant, covering the entire space. The suction force was strong and unstoppable. Although the calves were barbarian beasts, they did not have the slightest resistance. They were still very weak. As soon as the suction force swept them up, they were pulled into the air and sucked into the vortex. Moo! This strange situation was instantly discovered by the more than 100 barbarian bulls who were guarding the cave. When they saw their newborn calves being continuously swallowed by the pagoda, each and every one of them let out angry roars. Their eyes instantly turned blood red as they glared at the pagoda. Originally, if the black iron barbaric bulls wanted to activate their blood eyes, it would only appear once or twice out of 10 times. However, when they saw the calves being taken away, they all simultaneously activated their blood eyes. Unfortunately, although their blood eyes were terrifyingly sharp, the Linglong treasure pagoda was not a living creature. When the blood eyes landed on it, it did not even cause the slightest ripple. Dong dong dong. When the barbarian bulls saw that staring at the pagoda was of no use, they furiously raised their hooves and roared as they pointed the two sharp horns on their heads at the pagoda. Then, they madly charged forward. They charged forward like the wind and covered a large distance. When they were still several hundred feet away from the pagoda, they fiercely stomped on the ground with their two hind hooves. Then their entire bodies soared into the air and violently rammed into the pagoda. Rumble! A huge rumbling sound burst forth. You overestimate yourselves. Tion coldly looked at the hundreds of barbarian bulls continuously ramming into the pagoda. Before their sharp horns could even touch the pagoda, they were blocked by divine light and were directly sent flying backward. They heavily smashed into the ground, creating terrifying craters in the hard ground. Slash! A gorgeous golden saber light suddenly appeared in the air. When the saber passed, a bloody light appeared. Hundreds of barbarian bulls flew out in an instant. Streams of blood containing exuberant essence, chi, spurted high up into the air. Absorb! A white jade gourd appeared in midair. There was also a tyrannical suction force from the gourd that enveloped the blood that spurted out below. It was pulled into the gourd. When the gourd was full, another gourd immediately began to absorb the blood. In the blink of an eye, the blood of the hundreds of barbarian bulls was completely absorbed. In front of Tion, there were more than 1,000 gourds filled with blood. The blood was boiling, and the essence chi was rolling, causing the gourds to become warm. Good stuff. Tion glanced at the gourds and put them into a storage bag, then put them into the storage ring. Although there was a lot of barbarian bull blood, if he wanted to use it to brew wine, he still needed to use a special method to refine the blood over and over again, discarding the impurities in it and leaving only the essence. At that time, what he would obtain would be blood essence, the essence of blood. After refining more than 1,000 gourds, it would be good if there were even 100 gourds of blood essence left. The corpses of the barbarian beasts were treasures, so he couldn't let them go. All of the corpses were kept. As for those calves, they were all sucked into the pagoda. After they were sucked into the pagoda, a burst of ice-cold air rose from the ground and instantly froze them. This sort of freezing only sealed their bodies and wills. Exuberant life force was still preserved in their bodies. However, they would not continue to grow. Since I can't tame them for the time being, I'll just freeze them. When I think of a good method, I'll release them. This way, these calves will be in their newborn state. Tion's mind was calm. What do you want these calves for? If I remember correctly, the barbarian tribe is extremely difficult to tame. In ancient times, it was said that there was a peerless expert who used the unique 10,000 spirit beast taming art and the beast taming ring to successfully tame them. Medusa, who had followed along, saw Indra's actions. However, she was slightly puzzled and asked a question. 10,000 spirit beast taming art. Beast taming ring. Tion muttered, and a strange look flashed across his face. He was no stranger to the beast taming ring. There was one in his storage ring. When he got it back then, he felt that there was a mysterious power in it. It was a great threat to him when he was still a demon. Later on, he asked around and found that no one seemed to know how to refine it. Moreover, it was passed down from ancient times. Until now, there were fewer and fewer of them. It was rare. He didn't expect it to be related to a peerless expert. Could it be that it could tame barbarian beasts? He couldn't help but feel waves of emotions in his heart. Medusa saw that Tion didn't seem to have any intention of replying, so she didn't pursue the matter. After all, with their relationship, it wasn't a relationship where they could let go of everything, trust each other completely, and not keep any secrets. Moo! At this moment, the barbarian bulls that were fighting fiercely with the blood-sucking dragon wingbats on the island seemed to have sensed that something had happened to their nests and calves. Deafening roars of the barbarian bulls that were originally fighting fiercely with the blood-sucking dragon-winged bats almost enveloped the entire island. Rumble! The ground rumbled violently, and it shook strangely like waves. Iron hooves stomped on the ground, and the sound of galloping waves rolled in like the tide. Obviously, the frenzied barbarian bulls were rushing to the nest with no regard for anything else. Good timing! Tion put away the Linglong treasure pagoda and patted the scabbard. The tiger soul in the scabbard let out a tyrannical roar and flew out of the scabbard. The moment it flew above his head, a slender arm stretched out, and his right hand grabbed the hilt of the scabbard. A powerful sound rang out, and the tiger's soul was pointed diagonally to the ground. The moment the tiger's soul left the scabbard, a cold, killing intent naturally flowed out of his body. Traces of purple gold light flashed on the ice-cold mask, and the mysterious patterns on it were vivid and lifelike, as if they were swimming around continuously. A vast pressure naturally spread out in all directions. The blood of the barbarian bulls and the blood-sucking dragon-winged bats. Even if you didn't come, this king would still have gone to find you. A bone-chilling light flashed in D. Shurtian's eyes. Pata! He stepped forward with his left foot, stepping on the void as if he was stepping on solid ground. Countless shocking ripples appeared under his feet. He didn't have much time to spend in the Tower of Babel. Spending a year in seclusion was already the limit of what he could do now. After the battle between the immortals and demons, although there would be a period of relative calm, there were definitely countless terrifying undercurrents surging under this calm. The Southern Barbarian and even the myriad Demon Valley had a confrontation with the myriad beast sect in the past. They must have entered the eyes of many sects in the immortal cultivation world. Not everyone wanted to see the myriad Demon Valley grow stronger day by day. Coupled with the myriad Demon City and other matters, although the Tower of Babel was full of mysteries, it was not a place he could stay for long. In a year, he hadn't received any news from the outside world. I'll kill this group of barbarian beasts, and then leave the Tower of Babel. Compared to the Linglong Pavilion's attention on me, it should be temporarily diverted. Thoughts flashed through D. Shurtian's mind quickly. Patter! In the void, in a few steps, he left the cave. Standing in the void, he coldly looked at the thunder-like, galloping scene in the distance. The crazy bulls were simply rampaging. No matter what it was, as long as it was in their way, it would be smashed into thousands of pieces. Ancient trees were smashed into pieces one after another. In the sky, a large black mass of tens of thousands of ferocious bats chased closely. Emperor's Way of the Extreme Emperor, God and Devil's Mourning. D. Shurtian's eyes narrowed as he shouted in his heart. The Emperor's Way of the Extreme Emperor was a shocking battle technique that he had established after confirming the Emperor's shocking world book in his body. It corresponded to the 7 emotions and 6 desires. The God and Devil's Mourning undoubtedly pushed the will of sorrow to the limit. An invisible wind blew past. Endless sorrow burst out of D. Shurtian's body, condensing the sorrow of tens of thousands of creatures into a vast smoke signal that soared into the sky. The wind rose, and the wind rushed, bringing with it desolate sorrow. Wherever it blew, the grass and trees would mourn together. At the same time, an illusory scene seemed to appear in the void. Countless gods and demons died, and tens of thousands of creatures mourned endlessly. Countless sorrowful scenes that seemed both real and illusory appeared. Rumble, Tiger, Soul swung the saber, and the illusions in the air were all destroyed, turning into boundless sorrowful thoughts that gathered in the saber like a tide. In the blink of an eye, the sorrowful thoughts that filled the air strangely disappeared, completely condensing in the saber. On the blade, one could see the scene of tens of thousands of gods and demons fighting. Clang! Slay! An icy word resounded through the sky like a thunderclap. Tiger's Soul faced the bulls and bats coming directly at him and slashed with its blade in a sorrowful manner. When the blade was drawn, countless gods and demons with battle blades in their hands rushed out like a tide. In the blink of an eye, they covered the sky and split the sun. Thank you so much for the 5,888 renminbi tip. I haven't received such a heavy reward in a long time. I'll try to update more tomorrow. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.